No, I'm taking this incredibly seriously. You do not understand.
It's serious? Right, okay.
Wait, I titled this only Necros already. Wait, then I have to dial back the memeing a little bit.
I'm gonna be uploading this to official YouTube. No, what's going on, boys?
I might actually upload to YouTube. It depends if Chronic is funny or not. I mean, I know you're good, Macros. You know, kind of up to Chronic if he delivers. You know.
Now I got the pressure. I'll stop doing Helltide right now to focus.
Oh man. No, I just wanted to like have a casual conversation, just talk to you boys about. I mean, you guys are essentially the Necro boys over at Maxroll. They got me from Icy Reigns, and it's like there's a lot of Necro stuff going on right now. So I wanted to talk to people that actually love Necros, because you know, not people that don't love Necros, they don't really understand.
They don't get it.
No, it's not the same thing. It'd be like, you know, I could play a barb, I could play a druid, but we're not those people, right?
It actually feels good not changing to the flavor of the month all the time and actually being the flavor of the month this time around, actually. It's really good.
That is a good take, actually. Oh man. So I know, like, I don't have any structured plans or any questions or anything, so let's just see where the conversation goes. So I'll just kick off with how you guys liking the Necro so far this season?
I've been having a really good time on it. So like, obviously it's the only class I play, right? Like, I don't have time to play the other classes because every other skill interaction is bugged. But as far as figuring out the puzzle that is how good a greater affix is, how much does masterworking affect the build, what can you do when you can add this many stats to a build, has been really interesting, just from like a min-maxer's perspective, but also kind of playing the game for the first time.
Oh, kind of feels like it, you know, when season 0 came out, we had to figure everything out. It felt like a lot like a revisit of that, right? With a restructuring of how to optimize the builds and whatnot. That to me feels like that's one of the main reasons why I'm actually enjoying myself so much right now.
I'm like, I would say more on the competitive side, maybe. I'm like obviously playing hardcore, and I really enjoy the race event that we had going on, and I'm also loving the pit event that is coming up. So for me, like from that point of view, it's obviously great having something to strive for when it comes to like pit levels and stuff like that. So not only do we get to min-max the stuff a little bit more, or like it's more complex, but also you get rewarded for putting in that little bit more of extra work that we now have to do by pushing the builds a little bit higher in the pit than maybe if you wouldn't put in the extra effort to min-max the stuff. Before, you would literally just slap on the good things and, well, you're good to go, right? But now not only you have the min-maxing part, which is more rewarding due to being more complex, but also you have something to use it on, which is, I don't know, it's like win-win on every front, basically, for me. I don't know, I'm really happy.
That's fair. I'm curious about like the end game. I have a very specific take on the pit right now. I'd mind it. I think it's fun and it's fine up until the very tail end of it, because at the very tail end, that's where you might want to change minor details on the build to be perfectly optimized for the situations where you are either getting one shot or you're controlling the enemies, because you're not going to tank them on the Necro. I mean, you can to some degree, but it's not going to be a consistent plan to tank the enemies. And at that point, I feel like I'm into this position where I feel like I'm fishing, either for a good start to not die early to lose the timer, or once I get to the boss and I can't abuse the holy bolt, there's no ads, I'm losing out on the timer. So now I feel like I'm back to what they said on the interviews they didn't want to have, and that is literal fishing. Have you guys ended up in that position as well?
What build are you playing, I think would help?
Shadow minions right now.
Shadow minion. So I'm fully over onto Blight at this point, and I'm not currently fishing, but I'm at tier 97 without Elixir Holy Bolts on the build.
That's pretty good.
And I finally have a piece of gear that actually says plus Blight rank. Shoutouts to Sarok, one of the other creators who hooked me up. But like,
nice.
I don't know, man. I've only felt incremental growth, incremental progression, and the only boss right now where I actually just give up is the Frozen Fallen Shaman. That dude has the worst telegraphs for when he spawns stuff, and then he just explodes on top of you, and it all looks the same to me.
Yep, no, I agree. He has ads though. I don't like the bosses without ads. Like, I don't mind, like, below 100 was fine without Holy Bolt for the most part. Better with Blight, I guess. But like, I didn't feel like I had to, you know, die. You get one shot or I'd control them. Didn't start till like 110-ish. I'm on 117 and I'm currently unable to progress past. I need to like upgrade my gear and test again. That's where I'm at. Like, around where you're at now with 96 to 100 is probably the best progression I had in terms of feeling. And then it was just hit this wall where I'm like, okay, if I don't get a decent start, I'm just gonna restart because otherwise I'm wasting 15 minutes. Or if I don't get a boss with Holy Bolts, I don't know.
Yeah, the fishing stuff is also something that I really hate having in a game, but I think to some extent it will always be in the game. Or in games like this, where you have the Greater Rift or Pit variants in them. Because there is always the best mob type. No matter if you kill the first 10, there's still gonna be a best one, obviously, right? So to some extent you will always have that. And I don't know I don't know how to fix that problem at all. I really don't have an idea how to get rid of it. Especially with what, like with streaming, what it has become to, like, everybody watches us do the most degenerate thing to get the highest clear possible, and then everybody does the same thing. So I don't think there's a way around fishing when you have something like Greater Rifts or the Pit, right? Or am I
actually like,
or am I like overlooking something here?
kind of tangential to that right there. I think that this season has been particularly interesting in trying to help set player expectations, because there's a lot happening right now, right? You know, I consider myself a fairly decent player of this video game. I'm not good at physically playing the video game, but I can think about it pretty smart. And I'm sitting here on this build, and like I just said, I'm like, oh, I just did tier 97 on Blight. And you'll have community members who will come in and be like, well, this is trash, you're not doing 120 on minions. And I go, well, yeah, because, you know, the elixir doesn't scale well when you don't do crit damage, you don't have minion multipliers. And they're like, well, this build is useless. Like, it's not doing 120. And I go, well, first off, like, yes, it's very, very cool. Everybody should be pushing as hard as possible. It doesn't, like, it's for ego. It's for brownie points, right? But, like, also,
Yeah.
I can't make this build scale like a minion, because that's just... it's bugged, or if it's not bugged, it's unintentional scaling. Like, I can't make it do that thing. Yeah. So kind of combating that, like trying to reset expectations. Like, if your build's doing tier 100 right now and you're not on a minion build, you're probably sitting on a very powerful build. Like, your build is probably invalidating all of the content in the video game, like, no question.
But that's something, was it you and I that talked about that? Or was it... I think we talked about it, like where the breaking point is to where the community deems a build to be good or not. And it seems like we got this elitist approach, which is happening to most games, where, you know, unless the build is meta doing the very best thing, it will be considered largely in the community to not be a good build, unless it's meta. But then all non-meta builds are not good, you know, and that's just awkward. And people don't really realize... it seems at least, the difficulty of a 120 pit. Like, I'm on a minion build right now, and I'm not fully upgraded, sure, but I'm struggling with a 117 on a minion build. And people are doing 120s. Yeah, I'll get there once I upgrade my gear, that's fine. But like you said, I mean, doing over 100, which seems to be a very achievable goal for the Blight build without problems, it seems. You're not even doing Holy Bolt at the moment.
Yeah, no,
seems to not be, like, you know, far-fetched.
this will very, I think this will very comfortably get up to like 110 when I actually have greater affixes on the gear, and then I think it'll start bottoming out pretty hard. But like, what other than the number go up, what more do you need the thing to do? At least at this point, where you know, like, I don't think we have anything truly insanely broken other than scaling on holy bolts. Like, we don't have rogue scaling on what's it called, victimized, and we don't have barb scaling on 17 items. So I don't know. I think the benchmark really needs to be reset per class and per expectation. And if your build's doing it, like, you've got a good build, you must be absolutely shrekking content.
I feel like the breaking point to get Neath Iron is 61. So I feel like as long as the build is able to not just barely be able to handle, I'm talking about comfortably in proper gearing, handle 61 tiered pit, I would arguably say that's a good build. Whether or not it is, you know, competitive with the meta doing twice the difficulty 120s, that's a different story. But if the build's doing 61s and it's not like you're struggling to do it, then the build will be considered a good one in my eyes. And I talked about that the other day, and it seemed like people like thinking I'm crazy. Like 61, that's nothing. Yes, yeah, but that's for veteran players. Most people are not going to be doing more than that, if even that, in some cases, you know.
Yeah.
So I feel like,
sorry, go
you know,
ahead,
deciding where the best, where a build is considered good or not, that expectation needs to be kind of unanimously decided or something.
I got asked that question the other day. It was like, hey, what's the tier I need to be able to do? Because back in Diablo 3, this greater rift level was where you got like maximum item, or however it worked in D3. I wasn't aware, and I really feel like the breakpoint for me right now is tier 66. The reason why it's tier 66 is because that's when you get enough. That's when you get enough Neath Iron to be able to do an efficient trade for Ingolith. And that means that, like, as long as you can do that, you will eventually have, you know, high-level, perfect, masterworked gear with being able to efficiently get materials. And then after that, it's like anything else is literally just for your ego, and that's awesome. Like, let's see how far it can go. But after that point, that's my breaking point.
I think it's extremely important to find that exact point for everyone to understand, okay, this is the absolute minimum that a build needs to hit to be considered good. But obviously there is always going to be outliers, and let's be honest, most of them are probably gonna be the flavor of the month, so that patches buffed thing, right? Like, probably quite a lot of builds should be, or basically every build should be able to handle that tier 66 that Maxroll mentioned. And then everything that goes way above that is probably something that has recently been buffed and therefore not tested, or some bugged interaction, like see Holy Bolts, for example, right? I think that's kind of where it's moving towards, which is not a bad thing in my opinion. It's just very important that you should be able to clear like tier 61s or just tier 66 in that case, with like every build you can, like, which is a viable build to make, like, which is supported in the game through aspects and stuff. Obviously, if you don't put like a full skill bar on and miss aspects, then it shouldn't be able to clear 66. But if it's supported and in the game, and like Blood Surge, Bone Spear, all those things, I'm really curious where they are going to end up. I haven't played them yet, but I think we should get to a point where all of these can reach that point, or at least close to it. And then the flavor gets to go above and beyond that.
Yeah, when are you guys done with minions? I moved on fairly quickly. Obviously, we got Chronix on Maxroll, who he's going to be the minion guy. So once I did my due diligence of knowing what it does, I was like, oh, I need to move on and go do something else, because this is like the only thing that people are seeing right now. And oddly enough, there's like 7 other skills that do damage.
Well, I'm alone on Icy Veins with all the Necromancer stuff, so I've already been taking a detour on some of the other builds. I fiddle around, well, it was minions, but been down, and I fiddle around with the with Blight and Ebon Piercer, and it was mostly to verify the guides and to make sure that they're all, you know, high quality and have actual gear modifiers that fits the actual agenda of the build, you know, because of the undocumented goddamn changes. God, I hated that.
It's the worst. I mean, to our credit, at least for Blight, man, this build really didn't change. You just kind of do it. You put a little bit more essence per second on your build, and it's just like, it is an absolute powerhouse. It does exactly what it says on the tin. And I was like, cool, I don't have to worry about this build.
Yep, that's what I realized. So I spent about half a day on the Blight, and then I had the guide updated, and then I decided that I wanted to engage with pit pushing, and there was only one build that, well, there's only one choice when it comes to pushing the high end of that, which would be minions, right? So I went back to that. But I mean, that's kind of like where I'm at. I'm at the point where I have to maximize my gear with 12 out of 12 master working, so I'm doing that now. And once I'm done with that stage, then I don't know. We'll see.
So,
how's Lilith on minions, by the way? For
oh
both
my
of you?
god. It's like during the race at like 3 a.m. 1 hour before the race closed, because I obviously at some point, I don't know why, but I had to re-level. Like I died 2 times and somehow my character vanished, so I had to re-level the character. And then that's why I almost ran out of time during the race. But then I had to, like, with an absolutely scuffed character, had to do Lilith. And usually it's not that big of a deal, right? If you do the damage yourself to the blood boils, especially in phase 1. But if you have to trust your bony boys, oh my god, I am so scared that one of the blood boils is just going to annihilate me. I don't know. I don't trust them yet at all to do the job on the blood boils. I'm super scared, and then I fail one or two waves, and then I obviously have to scroll out. I'm not trusting them so far when it comes to blood boils, unfortunately.
No, I know that feeling. But I felt like phase 1 was easier to manage. But you know, we have blood mist. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
You know.
Although I honestly like that fight though, I gave huge kudos off to the developers, whoever's working on it. I feel like that fight actually respects you as a player now. Before, it was absolute garbage. Like, unironically, even when you got really good at it, the waves would just go in the wrong directions. They would spawn ridiculous. She would keep hitting you after she died. And like now it's like it has the huge indicators. I feel like it's a little bit slower. You have more time to maneuver. All the things are telegraphed better. I actually know what's happening half the time. And I was like, full on shout outs to the developers actually making good on the promise of having a pinnacle boss fight that you can accomplish.
Yes, 100%. Like, for me, the only problem right now is that I'm not trusting the minions. The fight is actually super fun, and I'm really happy. But I have to disagree with the comment that, well, we have Blood Mist. To be honest, take away my Blood Mist and give me Last Epoch's Transplant.
Oh, yes.
Please. Please. Man,
or give us the control of the A-click, like Rindon and Last Epoch.
Oh, that would be nice. Like, or make Decrepify that. Like, right? Decrepify kinda has that thing where you send them to somewhere. But I'm not a game dev. I don't know how if that is possible, if you can do that. But is there a way to add that function to a spell? Like, you know how in PoE you assign a spell to a skill bar, to a skill bar, and then you can right click it and then do the what's the exact verbiage? I don't know, like the click never move or something.
Yeah. So you cast it without moving.
Yeah, exactly. And then just do that thing, but just give us, this commands your minion now to your mouse cursor. I don't know if that is possible or something like that, but it sounds like a good solution.
The big thing here is, and oddly enough, the Diablo 4 developers can figure out the technology of making your minions go attack a thing. That is not the problem. When I got the opportunity to interview Adam Jackson at BlizzCon, we talked about this, and I was like, hey, give us target. And he goes, okay, well, that means to optimally play a minion build, you now need to target every single monster that you want to be able to fight. 1, that's garbage on controller, but 2, if you give people an optimal way to play, they will feel like they have to. And a lot of the fantasy of the Necromancer build, you guys have seen it in comments, you've seen it talking to your communities, is I want to be a lazy, I want to stand there and watch my minions kill everything. I don't want to have to do those things. So it's an approach to the design of the class. I don't agree with it, but it is a difference of approach as opposed to a limitation of technology.
So I got two things in that. Like, Adam Jackson is a very smart individual, but there's a few things that he's been talking about in our interviews and whatnot that I definitely do not agree with. So on the topic of, on the part of what you were talking about, I think that it goes hand in hand. One of the topics I want to bring up is what goes hand in hand with the map overlay. Let people play the way they want to, because we already know that if you want to play a lazy style summoner, you can, even though every single guide creator, every single content creator will tell you you're going to have a significantly, noticeably worse performance if you do it that way, which, you know, it's just sacrilegious, right? You can if you want to, it's perfectly fine, but it will be worse performance, yet people do it. They are opting into playing that despite knowing it will be worse. So giving the player the option to have a map overlay or play the lazy style, not hovering over to use attack to target, will still be there, and people will still be playing it. So I think that's giving players the option to play. I'd rather see that than having the game force me to play in a way. I'd rather have the option, right? So that's one of the things. The other part is, I don't think the biggest issue has anything to do with playing optimized. I think the biggest problem is that as soon as you give minion players that much power, now they have to be balanced around the fact that we have that power. The minions are super broken and do so much damage, right? But if we had the power to make sure that they're always ahead of us or always going to attack the targets as soon as it's on our screen, they would have to, for the sake of balance, lower the damage output, because that much control is power, right? And then it becomes problematic, because now they have to balance base to that, and that makes it worse for the lazy player, right? So I feel like it's more of a balance issue rather than a control issue if they were to give us that level of control.
Counterpoint, they've had no problem letting the barbarian be unbalanced since before the game came out. So, and like, so unironically at this point, like it's been a meme for a very long time, but what, it took 3-4 days for Barb to get back up to top right now? Like, minions was everything, but now go watch Barbs do stuff. I don't know, man. I don't understand why the barbarian getting to have their cool thing has to make the game physically impossible to balance. And I think at this point it needs to be held accountable, honestly.
Yeah, no, I don't have any counter arguments to that. So.
Wait, do you mean it's not unfair that blood builds got completely shredded? Not completely shredded, but a little bit nerfed due to barbs? Do you think that's not fair? Is that what you're saying?
I'm just having some strong opinions over here about the barbarians equipping 3 more items than me, and then saying no, it's fine. Like,
that's rough.
Yeah,
it's rough for sure. I gotta be honest, I'm just happy we are somewhere close to S tier right now, and I'm not really looking left and right that much. Although I also would love a season where we actually have something that at least double dips. That would be nice. Like, can we have that?
The minions double dipping holy bolts.
I mean, yeah, that's like holy bolt stuff. That's fine, but that's the elixir doing it, right? I kind of want some crazy stuff like triple dip victimize at some point. That would be nice.
Hey, no, did you miss out on the news chronics? You didn't see the ping I gave you?
Oh god, what happened?
So Ebon Piercer, the necklace, it doesn't trigger lucky hit. Except it does trigger very specifically hued flesh. So we're getting like two corpses for the price of 1. It's big. It's big. This is definitely not sarcasm. This is definitely not the most sarcastic I've ever been in public. Yeah, no, I mean, like, I hear you. Like, I don't think it's so hard. I think the game should be in a healthy place. I don't care who has to pay the price for the game to be in a healthy place, but I understand.
Barb paid.
Yeah, well, yes, but yeah, like have them, pay for the wall. That's all fine, but I don't need the Necromancer to have, 3 months of being hysterically broken and everybody being pissed at us. I just need it to be fair, or at least attempting to be. That's all I need.
I think that's very fair. Like, I like the idea of the game being balanced. It's not, and it hasn't been for a very long time. And it's not like, yeah, okay, Barb's overpowered, that's overpowered, the Holy Bolt's currently broken. I don't know, I just feel like the idea of a game that is balanced and not perfect, it will never be perfect, but that the difference between the best and the second best isn't, hey, I can now one-shot uber bosses versus, oh, I'm gonna take 45 seconds to kill one. Like, that's kind of like the difference we have right now. Like, I don't understand how that's sitting there. So I guess faster changes or reactions to changes is something that I'm looking for. Like, to see something is broken, we'll adjust it immediately instead of letting everybody go ham at it for half the season before they actually do something about it.
Yeah, they're so gun shy now.
I gotta be honest, that's one point that I mean, from the history where we had the big nerf patch, was that season 1, if I remember correctly?
Yeah.
I can understand that you're now a little bit scared of doing like changes mid-season, and or like instantly rather, but also that is kind of the wrong way, but it's also the wrong way to let everything slide for a whole season. I mean, look at rogues in AOZ in season 2. They had what, 28 combo points? I mean, like, come on. Like, we were running around with 18k HP, hoping that our lidless wall proliferates our bone storm so we can at least think about clearing a tier 10 or something like that. And they were just one-shotting everything on a tier 10, right? It's not to bash rogues. It's just about there is a difference between our Reaper bug that is going on right now and the rogue having 28 combo points, right? I think it's totally fine to just not focus that much on the Reaper bug that is going on, right? Where you basically, for everyone who doesn't know and plays Necro, if you play the Reapers on the Skeletal Warriors right now, the second upgrade basically gives you the first one for free. So this is definitely something that shouldn't be in the game, but it's not as game-breaking as giving a rogue 28 combo points who literally just one-shotted world bosses and Duriel within like, within a one-shot, right? It was crazy. And I think there has to be a line between how broken is that thing that needs to be fixed. Holy Bolts, for example. I'm a Necro. I probably make the most use of this. Please get rid of it as soon as possible, in my opinion.
I like what you're saying. It kind of reminds me of the Season 0 launch. So now they're not changing anything, basically. They're taking forever to make changes to the game. And then back in Season 0, where we had the race, I was part of the race group. And the competition was mainly my group versus Rob. And we did the dungeon spam. And before the race was actually over, they were starting to make nerfs. So the first up, they kind of disabled Rob's build mid-run at the very end of it. Completely. The gloves or whatever it was, right? For barbarians. And then they nerfed. There were two very specific dungeons. So it's Champions of Mice, and I don't remember the other one.
Which was Works was the one.
Yeah, thank you. That's the one I was running. Because our group couldn't handle the Champions of Mice in an effective manner compared to what Rob was doing. So they were running that dungeon, and I did the Amalgam ones, and then they nerfed my dungeon before the race was even over. Like, mid-run, making all these changes, destroyed the bar build for a few days, and my dungeon was nerfed, and I couldn't catch it. I was so angry. So going from them making changes almost immediately, all the time, during the first few days, to suddenly they're not going to touch anything. They're going to wait till half the season has gone through, and then they're going to make some balance changes where, literally the entire player base is already migrated out of the game to then come back for the next season. That's when the balance change comes in. That's just so weird to me. And you can translate or compare that to, say, Path of Exile, for example. In Path of Exile, they do basically take all the feedback and all the bugs and itches, but if there's glitches or exploits or any sort of overpowerness that comes from because as a result of an exploit or something like that, that is attended to as soon as possible. Like, if they have to, they will bring that up within hours or the day after. And I mean, it's very different games. But I'd rather see balance issues not be touched at all till the next season. But if there's exploits and bugs or unintended scalings, such as Holy Bolt from minions, the rogues combo points in season 2, all those things, they would be attended to immediately for the health of the game.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree here, and I think you can kinda draw a line fairly easily here. Of course, some bug is going to be like, well, is it this now or is it that? But I'm sure they can figure out a way of choosing that specific thing. But what I'm scared of is that is exactly what happened in Season 2 for so many people. Like, they were, well, is the 28 combo points now going to stay? Am I safe to make a rogue and enjoy being crazy overpowered? Or am I gonna hit 100 and all my effort was for nothing? And I think that is also pretty dangerous for the players, because I would be, well, for us it doesn't matter. We play 10 hours and we have a level 100, right? And then we enjoy the thing. But that's obviously not possible for everyone. But it's like, I think it's doing more harm than good, not only from a gameplay perspective, but also kind of like this FOMO thing of like fear of not playing that OP thing because it might not be available as long as possible, versus, well, I want to reroll and enjoy that OP thing, but I don't know how long it's going to be available for me. Like, if you knew that the 28 combo points are being fixed as soon as stuff like that comes up, then you're like, oh, well, I didn't make a rogue this season. Well, didn't win the OP-ness. Oh, well, yeah, now it's out. Casino this time, but better luck next time, versus, oh, I need to very fast reroll to be as OP as possible and enjoy it. Like, I think it does more harm than good, not only in a gameplay perspective, but also making people consider re-rolling to enjoy or work with the bug as much as possible, versus being scared to pull the trigger on re-rolling. I think it's rough. If we knew it's instantly fixed, I think not only does that fix the gameplay, but it also doesn't force people to re-roll that want the best season of the best build of the season to be their main, basically.
Isn't that a lot about expectation? I mean, if the company goes out and said, okay, they've realized this is overpowered and whatnot, they can make an official statement saying, hey, we are going to look into fixing this. Now they've telegraphed and communicated to the community that, hey, this is not working as intended and this is going to be fixed. Whether or not that's going to take them a day or 2 or 3 to fix, that's a different story. But now they've made sure that the community has been informed that this is indeed going to be fixed. Another aspect of the idea of like leveling up to 100, oh, that class is now overpowered, or that build's now overpowered. For us that plays the way, obnoxious amount of unhealthy hours that we do, we can get that work in before they have time to get a fix in. Whereas the casual players, I don't think that the risk of them wasting their time or being angry is really that big, simply because of the fact that they don't have a character ready within 10 hours to making that happen.
My only pushback there, though, and this is something that we experienced a lot with fine-tuning this minion build to a place where everybody can feel good about it, right? Like, I'm still full camp, just invest in Golem, ignore everything else. But you have people out there saying like, oh, well, minions, the skeleton mages also do good and all this, and it's like, okay. Anytime we okayed a change, like Chronix and I sat down and said like, okay, we're gonna do this change to this build guide, we're gonna do this change. Bro, the people out here, like, you don't understand. I just ruined all of my gear with tempering. Like, we're in a different place right now vis-a-vis casual players feeling like their builds are getting screwed up. Mm-hmm. I think the only thing that they can do is say, these are on our radar, enjoy them while they last. And I agree. I wish they would just straight up say something like that. But it needs to happen sooner rather than later for sure. But I definitely think people are going to be negatively impacted when they inevitably change some of this stuff. Like, some of it has to change, because it's just like, if nothing comes down the line in a patch like this week, then I guess, you know what, enjoy the broken builds and never worry about it, because they need to make a statement right now. But I do think people are going to get screwed out of gear, like, no question.
But I think that's also fine. I think we can agree that if something is crazy overpowered, that, well, enjoy it while it lasts, and you're probably okay with it being nerfed. I think it's the vocal minority that it will have a problem with it, but I mean, you will always have that going on anyway, right? It's more about fixing the game than trying to please the vocal minority there. I think we all, I don't know, I would be happy if Holy Bolts was just literally gone. I don't know about you guys, even if it's affecting us probably the most out of everyone.
I think it has more to do with like the idea of what is considered a healthy state of the game. Do they not care that things are completely broken, exploited, and abused 2 weeks or a week into the season, and they only care about the spark of getting a ton of new players to get there or play the first few days? That will then make sales and make people buy the battle pass so that they can have more casual players enjoy for the next coming 2-3 months. Is that are they okay with the game being in a completely broken state so that those casual players now can spend 2 months getting to the broken things that the other gamers have already enjoyed, which obviously is going to kill the longevity for us because we're going to do it and we're bored, now we're moving on to the next game because this is already over? Or would they rather have the game be in a healthier state where it's actually engaging and enjoyable without going through numerous bugs, exploits, and abuses every season, so that the game is more enjoyable for the veteran players and 1%ers as well as the casual? So I think that decision has to be made, and then make changes based of that goal.
I don't disagree with that. To me, they could fix a bug in this game every week that could completely like destabilize our expectations for a build. But if we were moving towards when a casual player opens up their skill tree and reads a skill, it does what it says. That's the thing to me that, we're talking about a vocal minority. It's hard for us to have numbers, but I sure do see the people screaming whenever somebody has the audacity of changing an affix on a build guide.
Yeah.
And I think it's okay for them to be screaming if the next person who picks up the game plays the build and it does what it says and they aren't getting screwed over by weird stuff. And I think that's something that most people don't think about a lot of the time.
I think that's fair. I mean, I had a prime example of a Mandel build. I originally wanted to make like a meme shit with Bone Mages casting Bone Spear. Tried it out. It was fun. Definitely not meta, obviously, but it was fun to play. And then the undocumented changes and the patch that kicked in, I was like, this is not just going to be just a fun build. It's going to be so bad. So I had to change it. And as soon as I changed it, I got this river of messages and emails of people like, what happened to the build? I had to explain to them that I had to make the change because it's not going to be good. Like, you're not going to have a good time playing it. And that's going to be inevitable. Sorry?
I straight up deleted like Theorycraft builds. They're like, "Oh, where's your Blood Minions build you came up with?" I'm like, "Oh no, I'm not. I'm not gonna pretend to like this is like. Can you do it? You absolutely can do it. Like it's like okay with the Golem. I'm not gonna tell you to go do it because you're gonna go Mac. Why am I not doing tier 100 pit? And I'm like, because you wanted to play Blood Minions. I don't know what to tell you, boss.
Yeah. That day was rough. That day was rough. Holy moly. We had like I don't know. We had like at least 3 clips of me explaining something that has changed and why it has changed and why the builds are changing, and my mods were cycling the commands in the Twitch chat for people to watch those clips, and I also had a big green banner explaining what was going on and what basically happened. That day was rough.
Yeah. The first like 36 hours before people finally got the gear together to actually do like a Shadow Minion setup, when everybody's just like, what about Shadow Minions? And I'm like, I don't know, dog. I haven't played it yet. I don't know, dog. We'll get there, I promise.
Yeah.
It needs better gear. I don't know what to tell you. Just keep doing what you're doing. You're fine.
Yeah. Now, Blood was very interesting this season. I was talking to my people over at Icy Veins, and I explained to them that this is just gonna not work out very well. So our solution with the Blood stuff was like, let's just put it on a really bad tier in the tier list, so people will have all the information that this is bad, but you can play it if you want to, but it's gonna be bad. But it's one of those things where it's like you have to basically communicates so that the expectations are reasonable. And that's just, for us as guide writers, is one way of doing that, but also from the game company when it comes to changes like we just talked about. And you know, Joe Pipora was very adamant about specifically the idea of communication so that expectations are met with the content, right? He was talking about how if something is supposed to be unbeatable, that needs to be communicated properly so that people will have a full understanding that yes, indeed, it is unbeatable. And I think that's where like the breaking point, both for guide writing and for the game to actually to continue doing that. But why is that not extended to mid-season changes, right? It's like we talked about earlier.
Yeah. Just you know, they don't want to give us a roadmap. It could be just as simple as saying, these things are on our radar. Just understand that, like, we are aware. Bada bing, bada boom. That's all we get out of it. People are going to scream at them regardless, but at least like that galvanizes us to be able to say like, hey, look, they're aware. All I'm saying is play it at your own risk. Enjoy it for now. You know, have a backup plan, but then people know, and I think we're in a better place. It's very easy for us to say that. Like, I get it. I'm not a multi-billion-dollar company owned by Microsoft. You know, a lot of stuff gets in the way, right? But like, yeah, no, sadly, I'm not. I'm over here trying to save money to maybe buy a house in a low-income area. But,
that was the only reason I was friendly to you, because I thought you would be. Never mind.
You thought I was yeah, no. Well, it's because I have that big sign above my head that says my dad works at Microsoft. Yeah. No, but it's easy for me to say that. I do think it can be that simple, though. I think it can be as simple as just being like, we're aware, we're looking at it. See you all in a week. You know?
Yeah. Like communication 100%. Is key.
Sorry, Gezi. I just blurted that out. I just wanted to say, like, it's 100%. It's literally just. Didn't we have that in season 3 where we like, Adam Fletcher posted, or Pets Radar posted, okay, this is what we're gonna do. Watch out. We're fixing something, and then 3 days later, I think on the Friday when the season launched on the Tuesday, we were playing the game and everyone was like, oh yeah, that's great. Okay, this is good. This is good. So we can make quick changes that solve or like save a season, rather, I would say. So when they for sure have a list, literally just copy and paste that in a official post and link to it through all social media stuff. And then like, even if the first part of it is not going to come on the second or third day or even in the first week, everyone knows like, okay, I wanted to play a rogue, but only because it was triple dipping on Victimize, and that's gonna be fixed, so I don't even need to bother. I think it's just win-win on all possible fronts. I don't know. Maybe we're overlooking something. Why this is not being made.
I feel like they have put such an emphasis on communication and making sure that expectations are met. And then they're like, it feels like they're completely neglecting it on more important details. You know, I get it. Like, they're putting in an in-game content like the pit and telegraphing or communicating that, hey, this is unbeatable, guys. You know, that's the whole point of this. Now they've done their due diligence and they've done their job in making sure that it's communicated with how difficult this actually is, so that it is understandable for those type of players. But then they have these changes, like just mid-season that's coming in weeks after. They're happy with having their game be in a suboptimal state, no communication whether or not it's going to get fixed. Now, it's just so weird that the consistency of what they are preaching about or valuing is just not there. Because it's only like, no, you know what? I only feel like being consistent. I only feel like this super topic X or Y that we talked about is super important. It is like the most fundamental part of how we operate as game devs and how we make sure we design this game. We're only gonna be very picky about that on some things, but you know, in other topics we don't really care. That's just odd to me. Like, if it is that important as they've said, then it should be very important on all fronts, right? Not just on one topic.
Maybe there's
like cherry picking. Say?
Yeah. Maybe it's also something that needs to still be learned. That I think you would do more good than harm with putting out a list. Okay, this is on our radar. We don't know how long this takes, but this will be changed. I don't know if that is. I don't know if. I think that it's a net positive for everyone. Not only is everyone that is completely outraged about certain bugs or classes being OP instantly being silenced, but also you don't make people re-roll stuff just because it's overpowered. So I don't think it's not being consistent about communication. It's more, I think there's some, I don't know if there's learnings to be made still when it comes to that, or I don't think it's consistency, because some things are being communicated, right? It's just not that we don't have a list of what is about to change yet. I think there is communication, but maybe some of the stuff that we would like to have communicated is not being communicated. I think there is consistency in communication, but it's not.
I mean, I feel like the consistency is that they are inconsistent.
Oh,
And
wow,
what's up
now
with
it's
the
getting...
patch notes? Like, what happened with being transparent? And they're like, yeah, we made a lot of changes to underpower and overpower the modifiers, and then not tell us what it was. I cannot let that go. It pisses me off so much.
I saw the video. Yeah.
I think because I think we could put a little bit of a bow on this. As much as I just love bitching, and I do not get it twisted. I love bitching. I think the devs have done an amazing job working towards this ideal state where they want to be able to communicate more quickly. And I think we're in a growing pain section, or at least I'm hoping that we're in a growing pain section, where, their ability to tell us stuff ahead of time that would only positively impact the player base should get better. And I think it's very reasonable to say, like, hey, I think, like, here you have dropped the ball, and we would like to see it differently, because if we say nothing, we just get that every season. Hey, we made a bunch of changes, but we're not going to tell you. And it's like, then why give us patch notes, right?
Yeah, what's the point of them?
Perfectly reasonable. But like nobody here thinks that like these people are failures, right? No. We have been promised a thing. That thing has not been consistently delivered on. So you got to call it out when that happens. Else there's no accountability. Here's my question. Let's say Elixir of Holy Bolts gets fixed, so it only scales off player regardless of like a thing that has killed something. What builds do you think are going to climb back up to the top as far as relative power for the Necro? Because right now I think it's only darkness builds.
Oh yeah.
Like we'll approach, and I even think that minion builds are going to like, people are going to start seeing the cracks in minion builds because they feel really, really good. Until that one moment when, you know, like we said before, when you're waiting for your golem to come running over and it doesn't pop a Lilith blister in time. And you're like, wait a minute, I'm playing the overpower build. What's happening here? I think that other much more consistent builds and easier to pilot builds are going to start bubbling back up.
I mean, like I'm doing my pit 100 right now, and my issue is that depending on the boss I get, if there's not enough ads, I don't get holy bolts. And therefore I fail the fight, and then the Lilith echoes there. The solution for me here would be to run the golem, but if I didn't want to scale with holy bolts, I would have to run a golem approach, right? So in your question was about build scaling it without the holy bolt bug, right? And I feel like the options is basically two different aspects of the pit. One is you will inevitably at some point always get one shot, no matter how much DR you have. I'm running Tyrael's Might. I got 77.8 all rusts. I have tons of DR out everywhere and barrier and you name it, right? I'll still get one shot in the higher tiers. Not too much at tier 100, but in a little higher. However, I'm also need to have this point where I need to deal enough damage to make sure I actually kill them. Now, clearing, a little easier. But the bosses are... Okay, so if I don't deal enough damage, I'm just not gonna make it. So in my current build, being a mage scale, mage version of the shadow build, I need holy bolts to do that the best way for the highest tier. The golem can get off a little bit better because of how insane the golem actually it does when it comes to single targets. But outside of that, it doesn't really have that toolkit that the shadow builds have. The biggest problem shadow builds have is generally single target, like Infinimus, for example, which I think the Blight one, especially like Evan Pierce and stuff like that, would actually be able to do better with. So that's your kind of like the toolkit that rounds this up, because the defensive or the main defensive layer you have in those type of builds is not damage reduction. It's I'm not going to take anything because I'm sitting in Blood Mist all the time, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Whilst my damage dots doing damage 24/7. So I think I'm with you with the idea that shadow builds is like the toolkit is well rounded for this type of challenging end game content. Not sure if you agree with that, Chronix.
I do have to say, I have to agree with all of this actually. I am extremely curious what Bone Spirit is going to do as soon as Rapid Ossification is gonna get fixed. Because I always thought it's going to be pretty good. And I'm also really curious about the, what's it called? Do we have a name for this, Mag? The shadow damage over time in stacking wither thing?
Just Blight?
Yeah.
Like that's the approach of Blight.
Okay.
Well, yeah, it's you either sit there manually casting Blight, or you do like Corpse Explosion focused Infinimist, right? That's like the Black River. It's basically a Black River Darkness setup. It kind of doesn't matter how you get there. Although Shadow Surfer has crazy scaling, and I'm excited to try that out and see if I can actually make it survive long enough with like cooldown on Blood Mist. But any version of it, it's either Corpse Explosion and Blight, or just Blight, or Infinimus with Corpse Explosion, or Shadow Surfer with Corpse Explosion. Like, turns out Black River is a good unique item because it says 3 different plus skill passives.
Wow, who would have thought, right?
But that's the thing that I think is going to ultimately bubble up, is like, oh wow, it does turn out being Infinimist is really good for surviving, and given enough time and enough corpses, you will kill a thing.
For sure. I mean, the scaling on Wither is just the thing. If you can make use of the Wither scaling, that's your build that you go to for very high pit. Well, if you can also combine that with a thing that makes you permanently permanently invincible, that's kind of OP, right? And just stack as much int as you can and stay in Blood Mist all the time. That sounds really, really good, especially with the multiplicative scaling of Wither.
It's honestly so funny because the reason why they very specifically nerfed Explosive Mist back in the day is because they're like, hey, we actually don't want you to stay infinitely in Blood Mist. It's actually like too OP. And then this season, they're like, we gave you 3 different cooldown tempers to get you to infinite Blood Mist. Enjoy it. And it's like, okay, sure. Thanks, Dad.
Yeah, and also the changes they originally made, they said, oh, we got to cut down and nerf CDR-related modifiers because it was too strong. And then the entire design of literally every Necromancer build is, we're going to run a Born Decrepify, and then we'll work out the rest of the build from there.
Yeah, we'll figure out the rest. We're putting that curse. That curse is on A. That curse is on left click. We'll figure out the rest later. Here's my Necro build. It's called Decrepify.
Exactly. Like, I don't think I've seen a single... I don't think I've seen a single performing Necro build that does not use a Born Decrepify, because it's all about CDR stacking. It's all about that. It's just absolutely insane. And that's what they wanted to nerf, and then they gave us more of it, and then they nerfed it, and then we gave us even more of it. I'm like, okay, you know, make up your mind. This is so weird.
Yeah, you're sending mixed signals now.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be so wild if we walked into the season and they didn't give tools to that build, because every build got tools like that. But it is crazy. I'm just looking at them like, okay, I mean, I will do that. I have no problem doing that. Oh, it also gives me like 25% damage reduction and activates like multiple passives and a 20% multiplier in my glyphs. Yeah, guys, when people ask me like, hey, why aren't you using Iron Maiden? I'm like, have you read Decrepify? See, Decrepify says you're a Necromancer now, and Iron Maiden says thorns are like a really cute concept.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it.
Yeah. It's crazy how good that is. It's crazy how good that is. On the topic of Decrepify, now, especially with minions rising up, I'm very curious what you guys think about this. Now, we had Abhorrent Decrepify triggering from minions since like Season 0. Correct me if I'm wrong. But at this point, I would consider this a feature and not a bug. And I would be extremely unhappy, and I also would think minion builds in particular would extremely would be nerfed by this if that bugged interaction gets fixed at some point. At this point, I would like this to be permanent, because I don't feel like I have enough lucky hit procs, or abhorrent decrepify procs rather, for minion necro to be viable without that bugged interaction. What do you think about that?
I think it just needs to be fixed. It's the day I realized I didn't understand anything about this game is when I reported that like Thorns wasn't triggering Hued Flesh, like it was triggering Decrepify, and the developer said, "I hear you, Mac." Now Thorns doesn't trigger Decrepify either. It was never meant to. And I went, "Oh, I don't know a single thing about this video game apparently."
Yep.
And like we have literally misunderstood what the how any of this works the whole time. Cool. It's I think the Necromancer is sitting on a lot of borrowed power right now, and every time one of these little things gets fixed or one of these little things gets taken away, it's not being supplemented, but we're getting closer and closer to what it was supposed to do in the first place. And I'm very much a just rip the band-aid off and tear it down to what it's supposed to do kind of person.
And then balance it from there into the state it was supposed to be, right? I'm with you on that, because I feel like the best way that I can describe it is that there's supposed to be a painting, like a vision of how the game's supposed to be, and that they're making steps, doing Bob Ross action, painting happy little trees, till they have this entire full vision be finished as a fully done painting, if you will. And I just feel like right now they're lacking paint. And on top of that, it seems like they are in a position where there's not one vision that they're painting towards. One guy's trying to paint a city on the sheet, while someone else is trying to paint a mountain. That's basically how I feel like the progression of the development of the game is going right now. It's just awkward, because I mean, first they have to fix the broken stuff, get all the painting they need, like you said, actually fix the interactions that are not working as they're intended. Because how are you going to balance the game if half of it is just not working as intended? Are they going to balance it with the bug or exploit or abuse or unintended scaling in mind, or are they actually going to balance it based on it working the way it's supposed to work, whilst it's not working the way it's supposed to work? Because that's the awkward position we're in right now.
Okay, I get that fully. I can't disagree there. But at this point, what would you like the standard to be for minions in terms of lucky hit chance?
They're not supposed to proc it, and they don't proc lucky hit chance. And this is a personal pain point. People come to you and they go, "What's up with minions and lucky hit chance?" So they get 100% of my stats now, and you go, "Oh, minions don't proc lucky hit chance." And then they go, "Well, what about Decrepify?" I go, "Well, that's a bug." And they go, "Well, how do you know?" I'm like, "Well, almost 4,000 hours in the game at this point, but that is very specifically an outlying bug, and it does nothing but confuse people." How many people did you have asking, "How come my minions aren't proccing Shadow Blight?" Not because of a bug, but because it's not a very intuitive thing, and it doesn't seem to work if you have really low attack speed and all your minions, you're just starting leveling up and your minions aren't attacking everything. The game's already hard enough for a new person to kind of wrap their head around and understand those minute details, and this just adds to a pile of noise. Now, unironically, if they go, "Minions don't proc lucky hit anymore, every skill the Necromancer has does 5% more damage," we'll see if that balances out the net loss in power across across builds or something. I want to see it go hand in hand with a little bit of a supplementary something increase.
I mean, right now our power is, like you said, very borrowed, and it feels like the balance changes are made as if it wasn't working the way it was. And then they look at the performance of the builds, which are using mechanics or using the way it works right now that is not intended, and it just gets super awkward as we move forward. So yeah, I think that just getting that clean sheet is what they need to do, like they did with the restructuring of the itemization for season 4, right? They made a clean sheet, rework of everything. Here we go. Now we're starting over. Let's make this good this time. You know, rinse and repeat the process. You know, do it right. And now that they have these interactions being, you know, the way they are, I think that they should just fix them and then look at the performance and make up, give those counterweights to that nerf. Now that they can see the actual performance, how it actually is in game, not what they think is going to be. Not to be based on what they think the performance is, but actually look at the performance, right? Because I'm kind of tired of theoretical, you know, numbers out of their asses kind of thing. Like, don't even get me started on the minion HP change they did during beta, and then they got praised for listening to the feedback of the community based on level 20 and 25. Oh man. That was awkward.
It was so funny. It was so funny. I forget what the exact context was. I think we were just looking at the patch notes from the beta, and I wish I still had this clip. But I read the part where they go, based off of feedback, skeleton HP has been, you know, survivability has been nerfed dramatically, blah, 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 blah. And it's just me staring, like, mouth agape into the camera, coming from having played so much of the game in, like, the you know, the pre-beta to this, and just being like, what do you mean? What do you mean minions are too strong? Guys, they were physically unplayable once you hit a nightmare dungeon. What are we talking about? That was a good time. That was a good time to be a person making build guides. I was like, all right, goodbye minions. You will never be functional.
You know, it's funny. My reaction. I made a video on it. It was that I told them. I made a video talking about how they did not verify these changes. They heard feedback and where people said it was too OP, so they just threw out a random number saying, yeah, we're just gonna nerf the survivability of them just like that. And now they're gonna be praised because they listened to player feedback, and it's going to be a disaster. And then the next beta weekend came out, and well, lo and behold, it was a disaster. And guess what? Reddit got on fire. Well, Reddit is always on fire, but the community feedback was that now we have to, you know, make this stronger again. And the worst part, which was led to my video, follow-up video, was that they then buffed them, and guess what? They got praised in the community for listening to the feedback. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, this is concerning, because this shows us that this is how they're going to balance the game moving forward. And, you know, lo and behold, fast forward to where we are now, there's been a kind of consistent problem with certain changes being balanced in such a fashion, and that's scary. They're becoming better at it, but it's been very consistent from season 0 till season 3 with how they did that, at least, with just random numbers.
Now
and
I
that's
can't...
scariest. Yeah.
Sorry, Gazi. Now I actually get your point a little bit more, that you've been so vocal about right now as we've spoken. Now I can kind of understand where you were coming from a little bit more. Now that we know that we had that, I get it now. That makes total sense now to me. Before I was a little bit like, maybe you might be a bit too negative or too harsh or something. But yeah, actually now that makes sense to me. After that explanation, I can agree there a little bit more for sure.
It's also about expectations, right? They talk about expectations the player has, but you know, as a player, I'm expecting them to post certain changes, at least, well, not now, but like the first 3 seasons. My expectations was that when they made a change, I expected that number to just be a random guess that they'll maybe fix later, unless they randomly manage to hit the sweet spot with a, you know, I don't even want to use the word educated guess, but it was a guess to begin with, because it sure as shit wasn't play tested. Because like, if they play tested the minion changes, I mean, Mac was talking about, like, with the from the betas, right? they would have very quickly noticed that this is not gonna work. You know, it wouldn't have taken more than 10 minutes of testing to verify that. So it was like, it's just awkward because I ended up in a position where I was expecting something that was bad, and it just was really concerning. And then they talk about how important the expectations are from the community, but I feel like it's equally important to value the expectation we as players have as well, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you know what, guys? I kind of feel a little bit like, I enjoy this conversation a lot, but I feel a little bit bad about that we have started with the kind of like the more negative part of season 4. I think that maybe wasn't fair. I don't know. In school, my teachers were always very adamant about praising first and then giving the critique. So maybe we should have swapped this a little bit. Maybe we should have started with the more positive stuff first, because let's be honest here, like, there is so much more positive than the stuff we've just been talking about. I mean, we're all just trying to make the game better, right? That's why that's why we started with the stuff that infuriates or kind of like impacts us the most. But I want everyone to understand that at least I am extremely happy with the changes and how far we have moved in one season. So maybe we've started on the wrong foot here a little bit. I'm not sure.
Buried the lead a bit. I mean, I think it's very easy to like point out that there's a ton to praise about like the game. Like when I said I like the incremental growth, I like working through pits. You know, shout outs to everybody who has pointed out pits are greater rifts. I think, oddly enough, I think the developers are also aware of that. I think they've played a little bit of Diablo 3 in their day. But, like, I'm glad that there's finally something in the game for us to actually take these builds and show, like, mathematically how good are they, right? Ignore the potion for a hot second. Now, when you make a tier list, it can be, this build can do this, and it can get to this tier with, you know, top-end gear. This build can now do this, and it's very refreshing to finally be able to do that in a meaningful way. You know, we're not just kind of like guessing and saying like, this is how I feel about the build, right? Like we get to put a number to it. And that's why I'm actually excited for what it allows the developers to do, to Gazzy's point, about fine-tuning according to actual educated numbers. Like when we point to Blood Surge and we go, this is what Blood Surge can do, whatever it is. It can do tier 100 on perfect gear, and that's it. This is why it either needs to be nerfed or buffed. And we now have that tool for increasing the relative balance of builds and to finally take a look at them in a meaningful way.
So I don't mind. I think what you're saying is absolutely valid. I'm not going to dispute that. I do want to put in a couple comments saying that I feel like it is not our job to play test the game. I understand that getting community feedback is really, really good. But they made, like I said before with the minion stuff, that was very clear that it was never play tested. It would have taken less than 10 minutes to verify that that was not good. So that shows that at least some parts of the game, there are changes that's being made that are not play tested whatsoever. That is a pure direct confirmation of that. That's scary to me. And when it comes to what you were talking about, Chronic, I just want to follow up on that and say, I think like the game is absolutely much better. Last season, I stopped and just did what I had to do to update my guides after 10 hours of playing, and I never came back. And I'm playing right now because I'm still having a really good time playing this game, at least for another couple of days, hopefully another week if I'm lucky. And that's exactly what I wanted out of this game. So it's much better. I also feel like credit should always be given where credit is due, but so should criticism. And the problem is that they've had the game since launch where criticism, not feedback, this direct criticism and concerns have been the main name of the game for them. So I need them to build the trust, not just from words, but from action, right? That's what I need. I need that trust to be rebuilt. And it's harder to do that it's slower to do that than it is to destroy it, right? And that's kind of the boat I'm in.
Yeah, I fully get that. And that's very important to be to have that critique going on for sure, and like hold them accountable for stuff like that, because that kind of like makes the game a better game for sure. My point was just maybe we should have started the other way around to not let people think that we are like hating the game or something like that, because for us it's clear. I think that this is now absolutely playable and a very enjoyable experience at this point. That was my only point. I thought we should have switched it, but that happens when you just have 3 guys gaming sitting on a Discord call. I guess everyone can kind of like
I hear you. I hear you. I think if the various people listening to us talk right now are only snapshotting this one conversation and expecting that to be like our entire personality and outlook on things, they probably haven't watched us for a bit. I'm not super concerned about it. Don't let anybody tell you that you can't enjoy playing a game just because other people are critiquing it. That's how things get better.
Yeah.
What I'm most excited to do, like unironically, and this is going to sound like weird copium, I very much love an underdog story. My favorite thing, like when this game first came out, right? Everybody said like, oh, where do you rank the Necromancer? And I was like, oh, the Necromancer is the worst class, hands down. It's not even vaguely close how bad the Necromancer is in comparison to everybody else. And I'm perfectly fine with that. I have no problem putting out, you know, video after video and guide after guide of like, hey, look, you can actually make it good if you try hard enough. I'm very excited to do that with the underperforming builds that I imagine aren't going to do as well right now. Like, I don't see Bone Spear finding a way to survive beyond Pit 110, like physically. I don't know how you will do it. No. And I'm excited to figure out that puzzle and finally find a way to make it happen.
Materials might. Let's go.
Yeah, hold on. Let me go. I have one Uber Unique. It dropped off Duriel. It is a Shaco. Ooh. I have gone lucky. I have Masterwork crit cooldown reduction twice, because that's the only stat that matters. Oh yeah, dude, it's beautiful. No greater affixes, but that 13.6 cooldown reduction right now, it's real nice. But like, yeah, I can't wait to get Materials Might. People ask me like, what do you think about it? I'm like, I don't know. I've never put it on. It seems cool. It seems like it says a lot of defensive aspects, and that seems pretty powerful.
I replaced Hard and Bones with it on the minion build, and I'm like, yeah, I allow me to survive a lot of hits for almost 10 extra tiers in the pit. It's just that broken. Dude. I hit the master crafting on the resistance and the damage reduction.
What?
Damn,
on
dude.
The max
I
resist?
saw.
On the max resist
somebody...
or the all resist?
No, the max.
What?
That's insane.
So I'm just rolling.
Onyx is actually crying right now.
I have, like, to put this into perspective, right? I'm playing Hardened Bones on the Amulet, and I'm scared as fuck moving around, okay? Which is a good thing. Like, that's why I'm playing hardcore. But, like, I would literally, I don't know. At this point, I don't know what I would be putting on, a Shaco or a Tyrael Smite. Probably a Shaco first, but I'ma make room for both, of course. Oh, it's gonna be so good.
But I'm not sure I want both. I like to have, like, I think that Necromancers have so much value from aspect powers that I don't mind having one of them. But if I have to choose one of them, I would rather do Tyrael Smite because of the defensive gain it brings. It's not just.
Oh man.
Yeah, the Shaco's good.
It's Shaco, Tyrael's Might, Hardened Bones on your pants, and you run a shield for Might aspect, and you laugh. You'll never kill anything, but you will survive the apocalypse.
That's exactly the build that I'm going for. I'm literally just...
Shield and Might.
I have a shield, and wait, Gazi, I don't have you on Battle.net, but I literally have a shield with greater FX damage reduction right now. I'm like, when I found this during the race, I was like, let's fucking go, you know, because like it was insane. My chat was like, why is he so happy? What's going on, right? And I was like ecstatic because I found it. And then I realized I don't even need damage reduction on bosses, and I was like, oh well.
Nah, I don't know. I feel like the Tyrael Might is like the only source you have for max resistance, right? So I'm like 8 out of 12 on it.
Whoa! Don't you? That's revisionist history. There's some cool pants you could go get called the Tasks of the Something.
Yeah.
And they say sometimes when you get hit by damage, the next time you get hit by... Wait, you're already dead. But But if you could go find like a little fallen hiding in a corner who can stab you with some poison, you'll enjoy some damage resistance for Foresight. That's one of the things that people are always asking, like, how would you remake unique items and what would you do? And the thing that I would really like to see is not a pure survivability piece of gear, not a pure damage piece of gear, but more of this like utility piece of gear, somewhere in the middle. So when I reimagine, the pants, it says like, if you would take damage, like let's say if you take damage over time, reduce the length of that damage over time and gain a damage boost while you are under the effects of damage over time. Something like that, where it's like, it's not just purely survivability, but it gives you something to work with, and it lets you manage things in interesting ways. That's one of the things that exists in Diablo 2 that, out of all the itemization things I don't necessarily agree with Diablo 2, I would like to see more stuff like that in this game, like much more niche, much more specific. Does something, it's always good, but like it's only for these certain circumstances that I would like to see make its way into this game.
Fair.
I also play quite a lot of PoE and Last Epoch as well, of course, but what I love about PoE is that you can literally play interaction inception, where you can literally put a thing in a thing that you put in a thing, and you put all of that into another thing, and then you use that. And what I really enjoyed was that we kinda were able to do that with, for example, Plunging Darkness and Bone Prison, Explosive Mist and Blood Mist. We had like these little things where we could, we at least got somewhere close to having like these cool interaction things where you can put things into things, which is already, in my opinion, a very good step in the right direction. But I would love to see something like this also on uniques, where you go like, wait a second, can't I just do this now? And then you go try it out and you're like, oh wow, this is sick, I don't know. When I was making the builds for Season 4 and I was like, Bone Prison, Plunging Darkness, Explosive Mist, Blood Mist, and then all of that thing, or like making Bone Storm Shadow now with Ultimate Shadow and then proccing Blighted to get the multiplier. That makes my heart so happy. I wish we had something like this, not only from aspects, but also on the uniques in some way. Maybe even in the Uber uniques of some sort, That is something I really like.
Need some upping. Like, aspects are so valuable, and Legendary here is so strong now with the tempers that uniques are just falling behind. They need to be ridiculously good, like Shaco, Tyrael, or build defining for us to even look at them compared to a legendary item now. So they definitely have fallen a lot of, dropped a lot of power as a result of the current game's changes.
Would you be okay with them being more rare again if they were to up the power? Because that's my fear a little bit. Like, how many people went, oh my god, I have a Sacrilegious Soul and I have a Men Down and I got a Lidless Wall, I'm level 25.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, okay, yeah, I guess I can recommend all these in my starter builds now because, like the season effect just hands you one of them. I think they've really dug themselves into a hole a little bit where, like, I do not envy the person who needs to balance unique items, because how do you even do it now that tempering exists without it just completely invalidating tempering in the other direction? Sorry, one last point is I think the big thing is most people haven't seen a unique item with 4 greater affixes, which, like, that does start to get pretty silly depending on the unique item that you're talking about. Like 4 greater affix, anything that says plus skills, all of a sudden we're talking about a ridiculously powerful piece of gear, and it's okay that it doesn't have some additive shadow damage on it or whatever.
But isn't that like kind of like the balancing they have then? So tempering versus greater affixes on a unique, but then again you can have a legendary with greater affixes. My take is to answer that is a little different, I guess. I think that there should be chase items, and Uber Uniques was supposed to be that, and then they made them less rare, and then they made them less rare, and now they just basically tell us, you can have whichever you want. I'm like, okay, what's the point? What do you mean Uber Unique? You mean, oh, it's gonna take me a while, but I'm gonna get whichever I want, you know, deterministically. That's just kind of awkward. Where like compare that to other games, you have like chase items, like Torchlight has this the hero relics or hero memories or whatever, like super rare, or you have PoE, Mage Spot, Headhunters, and I don't actually remember which rare items you have in Grim Dawn, but you know, last Epoch you have the red ring, and there's another one which I forgot which one it is. Like there's so many different items that are like wow effects when you get them. They're not super duper, you know, 5 people in the entire player base will get them, but they are rare, and you get that dopamine kick if you were to drop one, and that's just lacking in Diablo right now.
I mean, like I was talking about earlier, I have seen a 4 greater affix Tyrael's might. That's insane.
Jesus.
So I think that issue up until this season was becoming a very real issue of like the casual player base decided that this Diablo game couldn't have chase items. And I think we can pretty safely call that for what it is. Nobody was okay with the fact that they didn't have a Shaco, and as such the developers had to capitulate, and that's on the player base. Not all of us, but that's on some of that's on enough people giving negative reviews until it changed. But now you have 4 greater affix unique items. So maybe the solve is now we need to amp up unique items just a little bit, just a little bit. So all of a sudden the difference between a regular unique item and a 4 greater affix unique item is so substantial that we're back to actually having chase items. Like, you know, right now the chase is in whether or not you brick your 3 greater affix legendary with tempering, which doesn't feel great, but it's at least something. And I don't think that most casual people will appreciate like how much that adds to actually getting to enjoy the dopamine of getting good gear and making a build finally click together, which is just not present, or at least won't be present in the game if we continue to make it so like there's no final repercussions. It's never that the item didn't work out for you.
For me, just to try and spark some discussions, I had the comment come up. How about you give uniques 1 temper slot, but it can be of any source. So for example, like even mobility on a ring or something like that, but just 1, maybe only on the uniques, or maybe only on the uber uniques, because I feel like Ring of Starless Skies, the item of season 4, basically, I don't know where to put this. I have no clue. I don't know. My ring tempers are so strong. I can't get rid of golem activation cooldown or cooldown reduction. That's too strong. I'm sorry. I can't include Starless Skies. I'm not able to. I would like to, but I can't. So I'm not saying that I'm for or against it. I'm just trying to spark some discussion around it with an idea that
can I be the harsh old granddad?
Sure.
I think that would be the worst thing for them to possibly do. Like, I see no merit in the concept of unique items are just strictly better in every way, shape, and form, and you now get to just, like... I would just ignore whole pieces of gear if it meant I got to put on, like, 5 more of the same temper that I want that fully empowers my build. I don't know, that seems like a wildly, like, short-sighted concept of how to, quote-unquote, add value back to unique items.
Sure.
I mean... the idea of greater affixes on unique items, like when you drop unique items, there's quite a few of them, unless you target farming them, right? Then it's, you know, have a higher chance of like sacrileges from Varshant, for example. Farming for a greater affix unique, some of them don't even have a specific boss that you have to farm to get it, right? It's a bit rough to have that as like an argument for a chase item, because there's no real way for you to actually go out and say, hey, I'm gonna look for this with greater affixes, so I'm gonna farm for it. But there's nowhere to go to farm for that, or you just park yourself on a boss if there's a specific boss you could go for. So I got a couple of GA unique items so far. And I've played quite a lot, I'd say. But every single one of them is just GA 1 or 1 greater affix, right? I haven't seen a 2 GA unique item. Not a single one. And we're here talking about 4, which is crazy, right? But I don't see myself going out of the way to farm it. You want me to sit and kill 1,000 Martians? Yeah, no, I'm good. You know.
Did you not play Diablo 2? Come on.
No,
now.
I played a lot of it, but Diablo 4, the way the game is designed, is very different compared to Diablo 2. Diablo 2, you did boss runs. You didn't need to spend, you know, several months farming the material to be able to do 1,000 Martians, right? There's a lot of other things around it, unless you, of course, were doing like Uber Tristan right back in D2.
Yeah, so no, that was more so just to get ahead of somebody else saying it out loud. And just to be very honest, I hate attempting to apply the logic of Diablo 2 to this game when, exactly to your point, killing Mephisto is a 30-second rotation. That is like, you click 12 buttons and it happens, and then you get your loot and you move on. But I did need to get ahead of the comments. Diablo 4 is a completely different beast, and I want it to have chase items. And right now, I think getting a perfect item for your build fulfills that chase in a way that isn't very obvious and doesn't feel particularly good, except to people who are very in love with trying to temper something and then running mats until I can masterwork it to the exact stats that I want, which I don't think the player base is currently super interested in that. I don't want to put words in their mouth, but I want there to be chase items at all. And if it has to be uniques with good stats, then maybe that's it. But it needs to exist in some way.
It definitely needs to exist, but you saw what happened. Everybody wanted a Shaco, which was basically the Mage Blood or the I don't know, the D2 equivalent. Well, it was basically also a Shaco kinda, right? Like all of the stuff was in the game, and we have moved to a point where it's no longer a chase item. They are literally raining from the sky, I feel like.
Yeah.
And I think we're past the point where we can have a chase item.
I mean, I think again we have to look at what is the goal for the game. Are they going to design the game to be at a point where, hey, we are okay with being level 100 in 1 day of playing. We're okay with everyone being fully decked out in 2 days of gaming. We're fully okay with people having close to BIS gear on day 3 or 4. And now 5 days later, you have depleted every sort of endgame content that you possibly imagine in the entire game. Is that the time frame that they are okay with having for the players that play an obnoxiously unhealthy amount of hours like streamers do? And then they're like, okay, that's how we cater to those players. And then the more casual players will have, you know, a couple of weeks of enjoyment or more, right? So I think that's kind of like what they need to communicate and tell us how they want to do it. Because we talked about it in the interviews. They said, well, they want to cater to the casual players. They want to cater to the endgame veteran players at the same time, right? But to what extent is it, right? Where are they okay with how it is for the endgame players or the veterans or blasters, whatever you want to call us? Like, where are you okay with that progression versus where is it too much? Because I feel like, you know, we can be done in a week, right? But we're not the part of the majority of the player base. But they have said that they want to cater to this type of player base as well. But where are they okay with it? Because the way the game's structured right now, it's a week.
I need to start using. I need to start using Gazzy guides because I haven't even started playing yet. I feel like, no joke. I fully understand. I get the idea of like a 2 to 3 week period is like max turnaround. As somebody who is still focusing primarily on one ARPG, because I think mostly I hate ARPGs and I just want to play Heroes of Might and Magic 3 all day. I think that's my calling. No, I don't. But that's like. I don't know, man. I feel like I'm going to get a month out of this season, bare minimum, before I really feel like I learned everything that I needed to learn from it, and then I have like another week of 2 of just trying out silly stuff. But I do hear you from like the blaster perspective. Like blasters have 2 weeks tops. I think it's perfectly fine if that's okay for blasters, because like you got your high impact dopamine, you got what you wanted, you got to get your achievements, and everybody else has like a pretty long road ahead of them if they want to see some of the gear that like even I'm currently wearing, right?
But it's like you said, like I said that from the very beginning. The way I play this game, I would be ecstatic if I get 1.5, maybe 2 weeks of enjoyment. I feel like with the current state of the game, I'm already at a week's enjoyment. Like, I'm very happy with the current state of the game because I'm actually getting a week now. I'm not, and I'm still enjoying it. I haven't reached the point where I'm bored yet. And that's fantastic. Because compared to Season 3, I had 10 hours of enjoyment, and then I spent, no, 1.5 week updating guides in misery because the game was so bad. But now I'm enjoying every minute of it, and it's fun. And we're passionate, provides feedback, criticism, and all those things. That's a different topic. But I'm enjoying myself. But I know, and I'm starting to realize and notice that this enjoyment is wearing out. Like, it's getting to the very tail end of it. So maybe I get a couple more days. Maybe I'll reach an entire week of enjoyment, depending on how I move forward. But yeah, I think I'll end up with a maximum of 2 weeks of enjoyment out of D4 this season, which in my opinion is fantastic. But what I was talking about had more to do with what Blizzard is saying. We are okay with that being the time frame for the in-game players. So I want them to tell us what their goal is, so that I don't sit here and be like, well, because I am very passionate about this. I would be very happy if I could get 3-4 weeks of blaster approach enjoyment out of the game. But if that's not something they're ever gonna aim for, then I'm not gonna sit there and wait and hope for it, right? Does that make sense? It's a lot about this going back to expectations.
Yeah, that makes total sense. I understand. Like for me, it's also I'm kind of in a similar spot. I extend my duration of enjoyment kind of by playing not only multiple builds, but well, first and foremost, hardcore. I know, Gazi, you also like to play hardcore, but obviously with the approach to like build making first and stuff like that, that's not always possible. I see that for myself. But for me, it's like I can push the create new character button and get, I don't know, maybe 3 to 5 days more enjoyment out of it. Most of the time when it's a different class, or when I play different builds, yeah, I'm kind of also done after a week most of the time. Not this time, because there was some unexpected how do you say, occurrences happening in the pit on the first day after I was awake for quite a long time. But yeah, usually it's like a week tops. If I don't decide to press the create new character button and it's a different class for some reason, sometimes that's my way of doing it. But yeah,
maybe that's my solution. I have to play hardcore once I'm done with my guide updates.
Yeah, I mean, like, I gotta be honest, and sorry to hijack the conversation to hardcore a little bit here, but I have like talked to the other hardcore blasters as well. We're literally having the most fun ever in D4 when it comes to hardcore. The bosses are actually nice. I did not die on a boss that like where I felt like, oh, this shouldn't have happened. Like, scroll always got me out. I always could outplay the thing that I needed to outplay. There's no unfair one-shots. I can set the difficulty, or I can set the... I see the difficulty rising with my new debuffs now. It is insanely good. Like, it is... I always said this even at the start of D4. We have, compared to PoE's hardcore, we have a very, very fair hardcore experience. Well, obviously disregarding the cheat death potion incident that we had. If that was never in the game and this was the state, I don't know. This might be the best hardcore experience you can have actually right now in any of the games. Last Epoch is also pretty good, but like D4 is doing an amazing job for hardcore, in my opinion.
That's actually really good to hear, because I listened to the hardcore blasters say we need to get rid of the potion because it's like this isn't hardcore. And then on the other side, my hardcore experience comes from Diablo 2, where you could just hit save and exit. But if you happen to hit a lag spike, you are dead. Like there was just kind of like no two ways around it. And I was terrified that people playing hardcore were just going to leave this game because they got rid of the safety net. But I'm really excited to hear that like people who actually like give a shit about having a good hardcore experience are enjoying it. That makes me happy.
That's really great. I always try to tell this to people. That's why I started hijacking this a little bit, because you said like I lose interest after some time. Obviously you as a blaster lose that a little bit quicker than anybody else, but I have a lot of people after a month or so of gaming, they come to me like, I'm basically done now. There's like, I don't know, maybe 1, 2, 3 more weeks to the next ARPG that is gonna come out, and then they're gonna go like, yeah, what am I supposed to do? I'm like, that is the exact perfect moment to go and play hardcore in D4, because you achieved all your goals in softcore. So this kind of takes away the bitter taste that a hardcore death leaves in your mouth when you die on the new season. You go like, well, I spent now 8 hours doing literally nothing and I haven't even experienced the new cool thing yet, which is completely like you've done that on softcore the past month. So it feels a little bit better to die, or not as bad, and you definitely get a week, 2, maybe 3 more weeks out of D4 when it comes to enjoyment. So I don't know, it's definitely a good idea for even if people don't usually play hardcore. If you want to keep playing D4 and you had a blast, but you don't have that much more to do in softcore, trust me, go try everything on hardcore. You're gonna have a blast. I can assure you, it's gonna be a very, very good extension of D4's lifespan in a season.
How do you like very specifically the Necromancer in hardcore, and is it just only ever Bloodmist?
So I think the question that I've gotten the most over the since the season releases, is the Maxroll season buff? Sorry, it's like, is it? Sorry, it was rough here. I was almost died here. Give me a second. So it was. Why do you play Bloodmist? Is the Maxroll guide gonna change? And then it's like, no, guys, I need Bloodmist on my bar. And then, why do you never press it? Well, because if I press it, then I'm scared for the next 24 seconds. Like my character's going to die. So to answer shortly, yes, it's mostly relying on Bloodmist. But the thing is, apart from that, and I said this in the beginning, I would trade Bloodmist for a movement ability instantly, because I can... Yeah. The thing is, I can outplay stuff with a movement ability better than immunity. Immunity doesn't really help me that much, because I rather, when I'm in a tight spot or I see, I'm gonna get hit, then I rather have a dash, which I can also use in other instances, compared to having Bloodmist where I just have an oh shit button. If we go to this, right?
That's like the explanation or translation, like World of Warcraft, right? I know Cataclysm around the corner. A lot of people just said, right? You play a mage, you'd rather use Blink before you pop your ice block. You know, it's kind of like the same idea.
100%, yeah.
Yeah.
And the good thing is we can move with Bloodmist, but well, you get out of it and now you're a sitting duck almost, right? Because you don't have a dash and your immunity is on cooldown. So I rather have a thing that is a little bit weaker, but I can use in multiple scenarios, compared to one thing that is super overpowered in one special niche thing and then completely useless for all the other stuff. Right?
Can we talk about what I think was your attempt at an American accent? Were we just going to glaze over that? Is that what hurt you to do?
That was like trying to imitate the usual Twitch chatter.
So they're American, the usual Twitch chatter. That might actually be true though.
Yeah.
I mean, just an American accent is very easy. All you have to do is slowing down your speech. So the slower you talk, the more American you sound.
That was actually pretty good.
It was spot on. It was perfect.
and like the other thing I have to say when it comes to Necro and hardcore is, if you remove Shielding Storm, I have to play a different class. And I'm sad about that. There's literally the...
Oh, that's where you're at? Like, only Shielding Storm all the way?
Like, there's no other way I can play it. Leveling and everything, that's fine, right? But, like, Pit especially, I can't play without it.
Your barrier is so OP.
I need this. I need this to be semi competitive. Only Rogue, in my opinion, has it worse. Like, only Rogue has it worse. But then again, they have 2 dashes and a shadow step, which kind of, you know, like if you sign up to play Rogue, which I also very much like to do, but somehow I got stuck on this class now, which I don't regret, but it's, that's fine. But you know, like that's exactly the thing that I was talking about. I rather have this mobility thing that I can use maybe even multiple times to get out of sticky situations, and trade it for the thing. It was especially bad in AOZ. Imagine Infinimus didn't exist, then what are you gonna do? Like, there's literally just shielding storm, and that's how I feel in hardcore, unfortunately, on Necro. Now with Hardened Bones, it's a little bit better. Sure, it's permanently active, kinda OP, not gonna lie, but still, I can have 75k HP, but I can't press anything except Blood Mist to get me out of a sticky situation. There's nothing. I have a lot of stuff that is active all the time, the Crapify, Hardened Bones, but at some point, that's just not enough flat damage reduction. I need a way to be able to react to things that go wrong. And I only have Blood Mist for that, which is fine, but it also has a pretty high cooldown. I guess at some point you are just gonna die. Where the damage reduction is not possible anymore. Not high enough, because damage is obviously getting out of hand, which is okay. But I don't know. I feel like Druids, for example, Barbs, for example, they have just way more stuff to deal with incoming damage, either avoiding it completely or reducing it on demand. And I can't really reduce it on demand. And the only thing I have is Blood Mist. And again, that's with all the negatives that comes.
Hold on.
No, it's good. I'm done. I'm done.
Actually, I wanted to touch on that concept that you just said of damage is getting out of hand now, at least as it pertains to the Necromancer. Because I think that was one of our biggest fears walking into this season, right? Like, everybody does Paragon differently now because you have 2,000 additive damage on your gear. But now we're looking at the pit and how hard it actually is. I'm wondering if they kind of hit this perfect sweet spot of casual players get to like start tempering and do like simple masterworking and then just go like smash all of the content in the game and feel really, really good. But people who actually want to try to approach pit 200 recognize just like how hard it is to scale damage if you actually want to be able to survive as well. Reflecting on it, actually, it feels a lot better than I was expecting it to.
I completely missed like half of the last 1 minute. My headset just completely started screaming at me weird ass sounds.
Hey, that's good. Yeah, I thought you were lost on the ocean, so I just went with a whole new topic.
No, go for it. Man, it was so weird. I was wondering if you guys heard it, so it's only me then.
you came through for like a hot second, and I was like, all right, Gazzy's having a moment. Let's just, F's in chat. We'll move on.
All right. Yeah, sorry to interrupt there. Go ahead. I'll fill in the blanks.
Yeah. So, I mean, basically the end of Chronix's point. Oh God, now my brain doesn't work.
Sorry.
Chronix had brought up the concept of now that like damage is getting a bit out of hand, and I wanted to broach the subject of I was very afraid walking into this season that the damage numbers are going to be way too high because we could put 2,000 additive damage on our gear and just laugh. But I think that it's kind of hit this sweet spot where, especially people playing Minion Necro to start off, like, oh my God, I'm finally powerful. I'm Thanos. I'm crushing it. When in reality, like those same people playing those builds aren't going to clear higher than pit 60 tier. And I think we're kind of in this interesting spot where, like, yes, the damage numbers are super high if all you're doing is casual content. But if you actually want to be able to survive the pit above 100, all of a sudden we're back to like Abattoir of Zero Days, where it's like, how can we possibly eke out even a little bit more damage out of this build when every single aspect slot is already full? And I think they actually threaded the needle, perhaps not completely intentionally, but I think it feels a lot better than what my fears were, which was just going to be like player gear is just going to invalidate the whole game.
Yeah, I mean that's fair.
Go ahead, Gazzy.
No, I'm just thinking. I think it's like there need to be like some sort of like reason for us to equip the gear as well, right? And that has more to do with like gear balance. I think that we might be a little too early on that, which is weird to say because the game's been out for a year. But it feels like we're a little early on it because they just changed the entirety of the itemization structure, and now we have to go through this the growing pain that you referred to it as, right? Like we have to go through the steps of seeing how we're gonna land with the new idea of how itemization works to see the balancing of it, and then we'll look into optimizations from there, right? Because right now, like you said, it's very hard to step away from certain aspects because we need the powers.
I'm curious what there is to come. Actually, I think everybody knows that just putting the power into the aspect is a cool thing, but it gets stale after quite some time. So I'm really curious what they are cooking up over there for like season 5, but latest for the expansion. I'm like extremely curious what we're gonna get. Like we saw the last Epoch announcement where they go like, what was the name for the things? I'm not sure entirely, but they said like glyphs or something that you can put on the spells and change them. And I'm like, yes, please. We need something similar to this. But I mean, maybe that's the usual the natural progression of this, right? We had to get a baseline. We had the biggest pain point of basically everyone except Macro fixed when it comes to the gear, because I know Macro didn't really have a big problem with the gear. He was kind of fine with it, if I remember correctly. And now we can start moving towards the next biggest thing, which a lot of complaints were about, where people are like, yeah, give me more different things that I can do. Maybe that's actually the next thing that's coming up. Not sure. Would like to know.
If season 5 was social reborn, I would be perfectly fine with it.
Social.
Give me juiced world bosses I can go do with my clan. Give me a PvP zone event where, you know, people are both like trying to fight monsters but also are able to attack each other. Then all of a sudden we have something like Fall Guys in Diablo 4 PvP. Give me a group finder and give me an auction house, and like you could take the whole rest of this year just fixing the game so that when the expansion comes out, everybody is happy, and I would be perfectly fine with that.
I'm curious why everybody wants the game they like to play to also have mechanics and features and events and you know, different type of content that is completely outside of their own genre. Like it feels like I'm not saying that you're the only one, because I'm exactly the same way. I would love to have everything I love from every genre into one game, but like we're talking about making one game the be all end all. Like this is the only game I'll play because it has everything. It's an MMO, ARPG, FPS, roleplay, survival shooter based building sim game. You know, it's like
so I mean that's actually I would talk about that concept for a very, very long time, Gazzy. You know, I think a great example where I think it's not being done particularly well right now is No Rest for the Wicked. I wanted to love that game desperately. It seems like it's built exactly for me, and I went to go play it and I didn't particularly like it. I'm giving it time to change before I try to like be harsh on the internet about it. But I mean, this is going to sound funny, but how come Fortnite gets to do it and be a complete success where like children all the way up to, you know, dads with 12 kids are able to go enjoy playing that game because they were willing to put everything into it, and it's not a piece of garbage? But like I can't expect that from my Diablo game.
Wait,
I don't know.
Fortnite is an MMO game now?
Oh, well, they literally just have like develop Fortnite game, almost like a Roblox inside of Fortnite, where you can just like develop things in the Fortnite engine and you could go play anything. Now that's not exactly what I'm looking for.
Warcraft custom games arcade. Is that what we're talking about? That kind of stuff?
I mean, kind of, yeah. But like even further than that, like they made it like a whole like Lego RPG in Fortnite. It's kind of insane. But like the thing I'm actually getting at is there is so much stuff inside of, because the ARPG genre, we all like to pretend like it just means PoE and Diablo 4. Stardew Valley is an ARPG. Breath of the Wild is an ARPG. There's so much in this genre that I don't think ARPGs can just be a loot grind with some hard bosses anymore and actually hope to like be relevant for longer than the 2 weeks, like you're saying. Like, I think it has to have more that you can opt into.
Like both last ebooks there, we have Path of Exiles there, we have Grim Dawn, we have what is that? The old one I used to play with PlayStation, Titan Quest. All of these are like super hyped up, and they're all just an ARPG, if you will. Like,
I get
why
that.
does it have to be more?
I look at the difference between an ARPG's numbers and the vast majority of other genres numbers. I think being hype inside of the niche is very different than what it could do.
Yeah. But I mean, Fortnite didn't start with this branching out outside of the original platform or the original idea, right? They grew to become a massive game. Then they developed and expanded with that player base. I feel like that's also one of the things I'm very concerned about when it comes to games like Ashes of Creation. I feel like, oh, they have some really cool ideas, but I'm concerned that they're doing what D4 was doing as well to some degree, and that's stretching themselves so thin with more than they can handle, instead of starting small, making sure that's great, and then adding more great things on top of that, instead of having, we're gonna have everything in the entire world, but maybe a fraction of it will work, the rest is gonna be bugged, because that's not gonna be good for anyone.
And sure, and like we're being a little bit hyperbolic here, right? Like I don't think asking for my clan can go fight a world boss like once a week, a thing that's just in the game and would give me a reason to be in a guild or a clan, whatever it's called. I don't even know, because I haven't touched that menu. I don't think that's crazy. I don't think that's like, why are we trying to do something outside of the genre? That's 100% within the genre. It's in a different Diablo game right now that you could go play. Like, I think there's some really like low-hanging fruit social interactions that could be added to this game. If you're gonna force us to be online always playing multiplayer, give me a reason to play multiplayer and develop those communities like I used to have in World of Warcraft. I have friends on Facebook. Yeah, I'm old. All right, everybody, I'm old. I have a Facebook still. But I have friends on my Facebook who I met 14 years ago because we were in the same guild in World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
That's not in Diablo 4 and it's 2024. Like, how is that possible?
I agree with that, actually, to some degree. I do. I don't know. It's like Joe was saying in one of the interviews, that if they did go down that, or I think it might have been Adam Jackson or both, actually, if they went down that road, they would have to balance it based off, the reward structure cannot be to the point where it's better than just going solo, right? But I mean, there are ways to solving that as well. It's just cosmetics. Suddenly there's no direct benefit of it, or looking for group finder if you want to do that, but then why have a clan? So there's a lot of things that you can solve it in one way or another, I guess. And I kind of like the idea of it, but it's again one of those situations where I feel like there should be the core of the game, the ARPG aspect of it needs to be polished before development of outside of the core genre additions is going to be the next focus of development. That's kind of like the boat I'm in.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. Like at the end of the day, we kind of have this back and forth argument all the time, which is like, what do they prioritize? Yes, prioritize giving me the best Diablo experience you can, and then add stuff on to continue to keep it fresh. Which, exactly to your point, is what happened with Fortnite. It's they realized nobody wanted to play the zombie base builder, which is what I bought it for. So thank you for literally scamming me out of the thing that I bought. Man. I appreciate that.
It's crazy.
It was so fun. I had my trampolines and my auto turrets. I just wanted to play tower defense, zombie boys. But
I feel crazy when you say these things, because it's like, I don't play Fortnite because I'm not 12 years old. I don't play Minecraft for the same reason. Like, this weird thing happened when I was a teenager, and I stopped watching cartoons, which of course includes anime. So it's like, I grew up. I got older.
Giga Chad Gazzy over here with no hobbies, homeboy.
That's not saying I don't have hobbies. I'm just saying I grew up. You know?
Man, if you haven't logged into Minecraft recently and just like had the Zen meditation of digging in the ground and then making a little shitty dirt hut, you haven't reached nirvana recently. It's still one of the best gaming experiences that you can have.
I'm one of those guys that likes, beating my own, beating myself in the between the legs, basically.
I was like, hey, okay, all right, let's go. R-rated game. No, but I mean, like, to me, it's like you need to have your Elden Ring experiences, and then you need to be able to log into Stardew Valley and plant some trees and listen to some chill music. Like, if you only do one all the time, you'll go crazy, and it can be a difference of taste. But there are plenty of people on both sides that would be very interested to see some more cool stuff in this game, because to some people, gaming is more than, like, that's all they got. They have gaming, and if that gaming could help them to be enjoying life a bit better, make clans have a use and make it do something that matters. Why is there a clan tab in the first place if it's not meant to be a social aspect of the game that helps you to enjoy it better?
Yeah, or the fact that we are forced to play online. Like, those are the reason I agree. Dude, I'm getting so frustrated with the pit right now. As during this entire conversation that we've been having, I've been doing 100s and 90s, and if I don't focus, like, these are easier for me to manage because I'm doing like 110 plus, but they're easier. If I don't focus, I will die and I will fail the boss. And it's so frustrating. I fail like 6 in a row now. So just
same thing. I just stopped running the pit. I'm doing whispers now. I was running like 80 pits. I was running 80 pits, but I have to do push to talk because I'm playing on controller. And I was like, well, I guess I'm doing whispers while we're talking.
Yep. No, I'm gonna go farm some angel breath and health tide. I'm so frustrated.
Since we started, I'm literally just farming health tide. I was like, I can't. That's the thing. I enjoy this though. Like, I can't just willy-nilly run into a pit and then not like be 100% focused. That kind of ties back to the point that we've just been talking about. I don't know how you guys can play any other games like ARPGs. I am so in this cycle of D4 last epoch PoE that I literally I don't know. I found my genre. It's insane. It's like, just give me that boss. Just give me that one boss that is literally uber maven. Like, I don't know, just give her 2 more crazy things like in that last phase and make me beat it on hardcore. And I'm like, oh yes, log in, man. Literally. It's I don't know, that's the greatest thing for me to be there. You know, I think like everybody played World of Warcraft a lot. But at some point, I was like, I cannot do this anymore, where I log into Wednesday, Thursday, and like some other days, and Johnny hasn't prepared for the raid, and I'm like, bro, it's like, can you please take the ball and bring it outside of the raid? I can't deal with that anymore. So I basically get the MMO RPG boss experience alone, with even in a hardcore setting, and if someone fucks up, then it's me, which is fine for me. It's like, I don't know, I'm so deep into this, and with especially with all the racing and stuff going on, that's like my competitive itch is being scratched like crazy. I'm having so much fun. I wouldn't even think about playing a different genre right now. It's insane. I'm having so much fun, especially now that D4 is making big steps towards giving us a real challenge. I'm more than happy to just sit here and be consumed by the ARPG cycle, going from one thing to the next thing to the next thing, and then starting all over.
When is PoE 2 supposed to drop? Because that's going to be my on-ramp to actually getting into that game. I've run up that beach a dozen times, and I've made it to like chapter 3, and I go, there's so many things here that people just tell me like, oh, literally don't touch that, that's old. And I'm like, oh, okay, why am I doing anything then? But I'm excited
sorry.
I'm excited to get into it, because I think where I do best is when something is fresh and there's a lot to learn and everybody's kind of doing it together, you know, coming up together in it.
Oh yeah,
fair.
I love that about Mac. It's crazy how he comes up with new stuff. It's like every time we hop on a call, which is, Arguably not as much as I would like to, but that's due to not only time zone difference, but also we're busy people. But every time we hop on a call, he's like, oh, have you heard this? Oh, we could try this and you could do this. And I'm like, his approach to like the YouTube, how he approaches the builds, and he just throws stuff out of the window. He's like, okay, we've built Bone Spear always like this. Let's completely forget everything that we know. And then he just starts finding crazy stuff. And so like, that's going to be very good for you, Mac. But to not be at a disadvantage, you have to play PoE and get to kill Shaper, basically. You need to wow, that's a bit rough. That's probably a bit rough, but you need to kill Necro
we're talking about.
Yeah, but he's on controller though.
Oh.
Right, so it's a bit rougher.
If to impress Gazzy, if I need to,
you need to do it.
If I need to destroy my carpal tunnel, if I need to kill this Raven lady you keep talking about, I'll go do it.
I think you'd have a good time doing it. Actually, it's a very. Sorry, I was interrupting you. Go ahead.
I was interrupting you, Gazzy. I'm sorry. It's like you need to do this, Macro. Just not only from a fun perspective, from a fun point of view, but also as a preparation for PoE 2, because there's just so much stuff that you won't need to learn as soon as the game releases, that you would be at a disadvantage content creation wise, especially when you would have to figure that stuff out first, when PoE 2 releases. I haven't played the game, but from obviously closely following and watching all the interviews and seeing the gameplay, you would profit a lot from trying to play PoE in one season and actually go ham and try to kill Shaper. That's like, from a content creation perspective, that would be pretty good. And also, I think you would have fun. And I think everybody knows that for PoE, it's kind of crazy, the hump that you need to go over. But like, a lot of my viewers have made the switch with me when I had a little bit of a following created from Diablo, and then I took them over to PoE. And after they got over the hump, all of them like are thankful they endured it. That little hump in the beginning there. Especially if you have someone that helps you. You don't agree with me? Okay.
No, I don't.
Let's hear the other side.
So, like, well, the first to answer Max's first question before I forget, the game PoE 2 was supposed to come out with a beta next month, but it's been delayed, so we're expecting a beta at the end of the year now. Other than that, we don't know. But no, like I've played PoE 2, both at XLCon and in LA a month ago or 2 months ago, and it is very, very, very different compared to PoE 1. Like, I had the PoE 1 mentality when I was playing the first time, and let's just say that that sucked more than playing the companion druid build on season 0. So that was just a painful experience. I think that playing PoE 1 to understand some of the mechanics and the terminologies could be somewhat helpful, but going blasting in PoE 1 I don't think is very beneficial for the sake of PoE 2 because of how vastly different the games are approaching. That's my take on preparing for PoE 2. I think that has more to do with the terminology and general approach of the understanding of the mechanics of the skill gems and how that's supposed to work. Not the skills or support to learn those, but just to understand the mechanic or the idea of the mechanic.
Yeah. But I wouldn't consider doing Shaper blasting though. Like,
no.
Yeah, like, right? Like, that's what I say. Like, go and kill Shaper in one of your league to prepare for PoE 2. I think is that something that you can agree with, having played PoE 2? Obviously, we don't know anything about the
to be fair, Uber Elder is easier to kill than Shaper, so...
Okay,
at least if you have Maven involved.
Yeah, okay,
whatever the cool thing to kill is, I will sit down in a season and go kill this cool thing.
Well, you can try the Delve boss, the all fight in like a depth 2000.
No, don't lead him astray. He's not Steve, okay?
I can be him. I don't know who the hell Steve is, but I can be Steve.
I cursed too much. I can't say his name. It's literally Can't say. It can't be said.
You mean Ben?
No. I mean Steve, the Delph Steve in softcore.
Oh. Oh, my tech level chat is cheering him on every time.
Yeah, me too. It's crazy. And it's
Love
like,
it.
Mac, there is an infinitely scaling thing, which is called Delph, where you basically just go deeper and deeper, and the monsters become stronger and stronger, and there are bosses in there. And like, if you would do that, that would be way more than a season. And it's also not necessary to learn the game. Like, don't listen to Gazi when he said this. That's too much.
All right,
I
get to the
agree.
bottom of Delve. That's what I'm
God.
hearing here.
I think like getting the void stones.
Yeah, that's a good
Get all
goal.
4 void stones. Yeah. Then you get to do 4 pinnacle bosses.
Yeah. And it's not really about killing the bosses because they're cool, because at that point when you've done that, you probably learned the game enough to not only having enjoyed it, but also be very well prepared for PoE 2. From like in terms of terminology, like you can, for example, way back when I started PoE, it has blown my mind that you can alter chests that are on the ground, right? You have currency, and you can alter the outcomes of chests in the game by using that currency, like literally dragging the stuff out of your inventory and manipulating the thing in the game that then gives you different rewards. Like, just knowing that this is possible in the game is pretty big when you go into PoE 2, right? Because they probably always will have that core concept in there as well. Not having to rediscover it when the thing basically goes live is probably going to be huge from a content creator's perspective. And the beta basically rolls over into a full release, right? So the beta is kind of the release, I would kind of say. Very.
You mean from a content creator's perspective? Absolutely. Like that's where everything goes crazy for us, at least.
Like that's.
Is it open beta or is it going to be closed beta?
We don't know. I would assume, based off previous iterations, that they're gonna have either that you can buy it through a supporter pack, or if you have spent X amount of dollars on your account on supporter packs in the past, you're gonna get a free key for that reason. That's how they did it last time.
So you're just gonna get me in with GGG, right? Like that's like we're cool. We're cool. You'll help me out.
Well, I mean, we talked about this whole thing with growing up earlier, but you also said you were a boomer. I also have Facebook, by the way, so we can add each other later. It's all good.
All right, perfect.
I don't know how they're gonna do it. I have no idea, actually, but it's gonna be fun though. It's very different. Like the combat is kind of taking take the good feeling of combat from Diablo 4, and you put that into PoE, but more of a harsher combat scenario where your decision making and the way you behave has a pretty significant impact on your combat experience, even versus like easy monsters. If you surround yourself with too many white monsters, you're gonna get stunned and you're gonna die. Like it's that rough sometimes. I'm not sure how they're gonna balance that. It's a very different game.
It's like you are gonna have a, how do you say, a field day in there, Meg, discovering all the stuff and the crazy interaction, and you're gonna love that part. It's gonna be insane.
That's the thing that kind of scares me the most is what just happened to my. Sorry, my game just zoomed out super far like I was fighting Lilith, but I'm just in the Hell Tide. It just like zoomed out for 2 seconds and then zoomed back in. I was like, I'm sorry, what's happening?
Find out how you did it, and then let me replicate it.
Yeah, I don't know. That was a weird. Maybe somebody will clip it in my chat. That was weird.
We talked too much about PoE. That was the warning.
Yeah, we talked too much about PoE. It's my big thing is I hate not being able to like answer somebody's question. Right, because that's kind of my whole life right now is being a walking, talking Google machine for this video game, and the thing that pushes me off the most is I don't want to just be sitting there doing it and being like, I have no idea, boss. I can't tell you anything. I don't know why you're watching me, but I that's just something that I have to personally work on. That's like I just have to get over that and just say like, hey, I'm new, help me.
You would have to turn it around content-wise, and you go like, you have an insane how do you say, leg up. Because you are new, you can do all of the, like, all the questions
the
you have.
stuff.
You can ask all the questions that we don't even think about anymore. So you can go like, oh, this is a video. Oh, this is also a video. Oh, this is also a video. And especially in preparation for PoE 2, that is very valuable in my opinion. Or like, you just put like the what's it called? The newcomer experience into a video, or maybe even multiple of them, and can prepare people that way because you've just went through the process. I think that's pretty valuable, actually.
So now here's the most important question. We'll circle back over to D4. How do we save the blood builds this season? Actually, how do you save them? Yeah.
You don't?
We delete them from every tier list and do like pretend they don't exist.
I mean, they're playable. They're definitely playable. You can do everything in the game. It's just you can definitely do a tier 61 Neath Iron. It's just anything above that is, you know, you can make them very tanky. It's like you talked about before with the tankiness. You can't die, but neither can the enemy. So, there's that. But no, I think they're playable for the people who really want to. It's just that's it. You really have to want to play it if you want to do it. But that's it. That's how I feel.
I think that's like, you know, like I said earlier, I like the idea of trying to like figure out the puzzle, but every time I think about it, I'm just like, I don't know, man. You go get a Doombringer and you get 150,000 maximum life, and then you just sit there and you don't die, and that's all I got for you. I can't make it do something that it can't do.
Yeah. You can't solve the puzzle when there's missing pieces. Like we talked about this, right? There's definitely missing multipliers for blood and also bone. Not really bone spirit because, well, bone spirit, but like bone spear. I don't know, man. Like you have to work so much more on bone spear in terms of like stutter stepping and also thinking about grasping veins cooldown. When is my flesh eater up to even get remotely close to the other damage, to the damage of other builds that literally don't have to think about anything, where it's like you are literally missing puzzle pieces to solve the puzzle. In my opinion.
Is this the season of like non-overpower blood builds, where you actually take the other thing that says that like blood surge does more damage and then you try to scale it with blighted?
Oh god.
Blighted. To scale with blighted. What did I miss?
I mean, you.
My question was, what if this is the season of non-overpowered blood builds, where you just actually scale their crit and vuln damage, and then you take stuff like Blighted with Shadow Blight for multis? But I have Garmin chat saying it's worse, so apparently he's tried it out.
Oh god, poor Garm. Tried everything already.
Dude, Garm is a fucking god. Like, Garm is helping me with all the blood stuff. I just love it. And he just tests everything. And when he says, this is so bad, I get so concerned.
Yeah. I thought I had a smart idea, and he immediately said no.
No.
I'm just sad for my baby bone spear. I'm sad.
It's gotta be like fine for speed farming though,
yeah,
right?
Sure.
Like
yeah,
Tier 61 speed farming, like blast all the way. That's gotta be, that's kind of what I wanted to try to explore that a lot more, which is, yeah, we always kind of talk about this idea of like, oh, if you do a speed farming setup and you can go faster and do more damage, but like, what if speed farming is one of the legit strats and it's not just something that you can choose to do on your build? Like, you just you level up a whole new character because it takes 2 hours, and you just put a perfect speed farming build on them to make the grind for the pit like that much easier.
I think this becomes instantly the meta as soon as we get an armory. Because I would rather speed farm on Bone Spear or Blood Surge than I would on minions.
Yo, Macro, you want to play with the Bone Spear build?
Oh god.
What's happening right now?
Sent to the Discord.
Oh, hold on, let's take a look. Secrets.
That's big.
Oh, big. Look at that. Greater Affix. That's I think I'm also sitting on a Greater Affix Bone Spear right now. My best piece of gear, this pisses me off so bad. My best piece of gear is a Greater Affix Blood Surge with crit chance and attack speed on gloves, and I'm just like, what? Why, God? Why do you hate me? Why me in particular? As I'm sitting here like trying desperately to find gloves that said Blight on them, and luckily my buddy hooked me up, Sirach. It's just like, bro, who gave this to me, and who did I piss off?
World boss in 7, by the way, for people listening.
Big. I need
8,
my
sorry.
1 prismatic shard per day. Can we talk about prismatic shards? Like, what happened? I didn't socket my gear for the first 60 tiers of the pit because I couldn't.
My
People
solution was do Legion every time it's available, do every world boss whenever it's available, and you'll have some. Like, I'm now having 7 extra, but I don't know, dude. It was rough at first, like really rough.
I have normal diamonds in my gear because I don't have the stuff to make perfect diamonds. Like, I don't know what happened, but please just give us some more gems and some more prismatic shards or whatever it's called.
Do you have 21 glyphs already?
No, I didn't get to 21
Okay,
glyphs.
so
I'm lazy.
If you push to 21 glyphs, you're gonna have most of your gems covered. Like, NMD seems to have the best, from my experience, have the best gem fragment drops, because that's how I got most of mine. I was like, I don't have a problem anymore, but I had before, just like you. And now that I just did my glyphs to 21, that was it. Like, I just get all my gems that way. It was really smooth.
Yeah, I'll have to go do that.
Still need the sockets though.
like I got to 15 and like I went, this is good enough. I don't need 30 more additive damage. Like, the Paragon is such a joke to me right now. It's like, you go to 7 boards, you pick up every max life node, you activate minimum 7 glyphs, and you're done. Give up. Like, stop worrying about clicking other stuff. And that's probably one of the things that, like, I think one needs one of the biggest look ats. Obviously, everybody wants the skill tree to be re-examined, and I get that. I totally do. But, like, Paragon is just so kind of absolutely nothing now, and I really hope that that's something that gets addressed, at least in the expansion, right? Like, end of year.
Yeah, I found it really interesting when we had to maximize the investment on the glyphs. I think this current meta of Paragon boards, I don't like that. There's no thinking involved that much. Literally just slap the most max life on there and just path to the shortest path through all the multipliers and you're done. I don't like that. I like the first iteration, or the first meta rather, way more. It was way cooler. I don't know. I wish we can go back to that.
Yes, he died again. He's just gone.
Oh, I'm muted. Sorry. No, I was saying that I think that there was better diversity in the past. There is some now, but for the most part, it's like, hey, I'm just gonna shove in 7 boards and just bum rush the glyphs because that's all the power and don't need anything else from it. And then, you know, you take the one where you need the least from the rare nodes on the last board, like, you know, Wither for minion builds. And then the other aspect is where you can neglect like a defensive glyph in favor of, hey, I'm gonna pick up a bunch of extra nodes in every board and I can have maybe 5 or 6 boards instead, or 6 boards rather. But there are very few builds that have that variety, so most of the builds ends up between, you know, around 6 or 7 boards just for the sake of chasing glyphs. Kind of awkward.
Maybe we get that in season 5. Skill tree plus Paragon.
Skill tree plus. Just call it.
No,
just like progression plus.
Progression plus. Skill twig reborn.
Oh my
Skill
god.
tree. That was a bold choice. They legit called this season, hey guys, we fixed it. Like, that's bold, IMO. I give them a lot of props for just saying, like, just fully diving into it.
Yeah.
So what are we rebirthing next then?
gross. I never want to hear the words, what are we rebirthing ever again?
You're a necromancer. Come on.
Yeah, and I moved away from minions. I'm now playing... that's also like the best part. Especially like nowadays, like people have learned, but it's like, Mac, I noticed that you don't have any minions on your skill bar. How are you summoning them? I'm like, oh no, guys, this just isn't a minion build. They're like, but is it a shadow minion build? I'm like, no, it's just a different skill. I'm just clicking other buttons now. So I just started calling this my sacrificed minions build.
That'll surely do well with the Google SEO though. How about trying to make bone mages casting bone spear work?
I tried so hard on the PTR because that is.
Hear me.
I go ahead, Mike.
No. I was just gonna say, hear me out. What if you just cast the bone spear and you aim them at stuff? Imagine how good it will be. When I was doing the bone spear for Maxroll, like the guide itself and theory crafting it, especially with the attack speed on weapons, I was like, oh my god, attack speed cap, chance to cast bone spear twice, essence per second. That is insane. It looked so promising, but yeah, then it happened. Then it happened what happened. That was unfortunate. And also I was so hyped going into the PTR, literally making tornado shot from PoE basically. So that I was like, I need to make this happen with the bone mages shooting bone spear and me also. Because I'm just a, I don't know, projectiles enjoyer. And yeah, unfortunately I have to wait until that gets implemented or supported in the game, I guess. But my time will come.
World boss in 1 minute, by the way, if you want those prismatics, Macro.
Oh, I'm please, I am standing right here. Don't even worry about that. I'm doing pretty well. I have 12 prisms now, but I have, 8 more builds to try out, so those are gonna run out real soon.
That's fair. I got more now that I don't have to upgrade my gear all the time. Like once you start master crafting your gear, it's kind of scary. Like when you find an upgrade, because I know I'm gonna have to spend so much up the site, an ingolith, and the neath iron before I can even equip it. That's if it survives the tempering.
Yeah, it's got to that was the best part too. Like my buddy handed off these gloves to me and I sent them back off to him after tempering, and it's like I hit darkness damage, which is not bad. I wanted damage over time, but whatever. And my last roll, I finally hit corpse tendril size, which I needed on this gear piece because I'm using Shaco. And I was like, oh, thank God I can use this piece of gear. Yeah. Awesome. I was running around with gloves that just said like damage, like plain damage on them and corpse explosion size, and I'm like, none of this matters for my build, but like I guess I'm equipping this now.
Yeah, I have a ring that I master crafted, one of the temper mods, and it is bone spirit cooldown reduction on a shadow minion build.
Perfect. Full send, dude. Yeah, I have this great clip. Hold on, I'll try to get it.
No.
While you're getting it. Oh yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, go.
While you're getting it, what would you like to see for them to implement on how to solve the tempering issue? Just what's your opinion?
So me and Darth was talking about this the other day, and I like the idea that there is a cost associated so that the dopamine is better when it hits, but it does feel bad when it bricks. So I would arguably say something the DM and I was talking about was the implementation of something that PoE would have done, which would have been some sort of currency or mechanic that will allow you to gain more tries, but that type of currency would be gated at the very high-end content. Say, just to have a rough idea to talk about, let's say Pit 100 plus now has a chance to drop in this orb that gives you one more temper try. Something like that would be a good way to do it. It still sucks if it bricks, and it's fantastic when you don't brick an item, but there is a way to solve it further down the road. I think that would be a good way to solve it.
Oh man, hey, for everybody who's not gonna like what I'm about to say, I promise you I'm not personally coming for you. You don't take this personally. I'm fine that items can brick. I just don't have a problem with it. I don't think that it's a problem. Now that that's out of the way, just so people know where I stand, how do you handle it? I think the idea of tying it to like pit 100 makes a lot of logical sense. And I think that's why everybody will scream if they had the audacity to do it. So if you tie it to pit 100, then the people who actually need to re-roll Masterworks, or who needs to re-roll Tempers to actually be able to push further, now has a reason to go do that content. And it makes sense to put it at that high level of a skill cap or a build power cap, because that's the only people that it's actually relevant for. Except the people who get less items are disproportionately negatively impacted by bricking items, and they are probably the ones struggling to get to that content. So I think logically speaking, giving people who are already succeeding at the hardest stuff and are just looking to min-max a way to keep min-maxing makes complete sense, and I think everybody would hate it if it was gated at that point.
Okay, well, let's say you have a 3G8 item. Your temper failed. Now this super rare 3G8 perfect modifier item for your build is completely bricked and account bound. I mean, I don't know how I feel about that. Because the solution would be that you would have to find another one. Well, first off, good luck with that. Secondly, you could buy one. Good luck with that. Like third-party trade sites, yada, yada. Yeah, you can buy one. You can pay $1 billion gold. Great. You got another one. Guess what? You can brick that one too. I don't know how I feel about that at all.
It's... I come from, I think the best original Diablo 2 experience that you can have right now is a mod called Project Diablo 2. And in Project Diablo 2, they have corruptions, right? You can corrupt a piece of gear, but it has a chance to brick it into, like, literally not just like give it a bad roll, it just turns into a rare item that randomly rolls.
Yeah.
And it is the most hype shit every single time. When you click the button and the icon on the piece of gear changes color and you go, oh no. And it's just like,
That's a Val orb.
So just Val orb.
Yeah.
Like,
it's Val orb, right? Yeah.
No, that's good.
I love that.
Yeah.
The problem is that it's not hype in this game. That's the problem, I think.
Yeah,
I think we need something like a Val orb for sure, but I think it shouldn't be the solution to the Tempest. I think the solution to the
Tempest... You mean
Tempest...
like a Val orb to like give us a GA? Like you randomly put a GA on the item, but you can also brick it.
Or you turn it rare. Like, literally.
Okay. I like that.
I don't know, because there's no implicit stuff that we can kind of like hide behind a Val orb, right? So we kind of need to hide GAs behind it, maybe. But like, I think for the Tempest stuff, I like gating it behind stuff, but I do have to agree with like 100 might be a bit too high, because to get there, you need to have the good Tempest anyway. So you refarmed it anyway already, and you don't need to. When you hit 100, you have a good thing that you don't need to retemper anyway. So you know, like why did I even need to go there in the first place to retemper? So my idea was that you kind of like have these stages of an item where you have like no GA item, and that's basically tier 60 where this orb drops that gives you a temper, and then you have like one GA item that is maybe like, I don't know, 80 or something, that the same orb drops, but now it can give a temper to a 1 GA item, and so on and so forth, right? Like all the way up. So you can kind of give, not only do you make it easier for the people to reach higher stuff by giving them more tempers, but you also have the thing where you need to achieve a certain thing so that you can start retempering to reach the next thing, and you basically have more smaller hurdles to go over instead of one big one. Because I feel like when we have everything hidden behind the 100 pit, then it might be a little bit too how do you say, too high for the casual player, and they won't even reach it. But they need it.
No,
early
like
already,
I'm not
right?
saying that has to be it. I was just saying that as an example.
Oh, okay.
I'm thinking like some sort of end-game content that would allow that to drop would be a solution that I think could solve it.
Yeah.
I mean, just add throughout 100 because it was just an easy number.
Okay.
Like it doesn't really matter where it is. I'm just thinking it would be good to have for the end game so that progression there isn't going to be like, hey, I'm gonna have perfect gear before I even need this.
Yeah. Okay. Now I fully agree then. Yeah.
I think one thing that they could do that's like a really easy middle ground, just to like put a pin in it, is if you could just keep your previous temper. So like, if your next temper is garbage, you can at least keep the previous one. I think that at least mollifies a lot of the problems with it.
You mean like the enchanting system, similar?
Yeah, like the enchanting system. It still has a limit, but like I don't now have Iron Maiden radius on my pants. Cool. Like, everybody's hitting Bone Spirit cooldown. I'm over here just like, God damn it, I love Iron Maiden. I got 300 additive Iron Maiden radius. I am Iron Man, the Necromancer over here. Come fight me.
Oh man. I bricked my pants, but I hit the Skeleton Mage Master twice on the Master Aircraft, so I'm just gonna have to keep them.
You're like, that's that's mine now. Those are my pants. Look at how good they are.
I have dodge chance on mine, so it's a little better than the Iron Maiden, no.
at least getting to keep it, because here's the other thing too. When you hit the one that you want right off the bat, but it's a min roll on like life or damage, you're like, I'm not gonna re-roll this. I'm not going to.
No, too risky. Yeah, unless you have. No, wait. No, you never.
No, you're not. You just wouldn't. Yeah. You're like, nope. I hit the type of damage I like. I'm Gucci, and that sucks because I'm sitting here with gear that could be tempered, but I'm just never gonna do it. And it's like, I'm also kind of missing out on that part of the system. Like, we're missing out on fun on both sides, when we could be just having more fun and still have the idea of there's the potential that it won't turn out perfectly, which for some people adds value. I don't think that it's the right type of dopamine, but still.
I definitely agree. I'm actually gonna have to wrap things up here, but you guys keep going if you guys want to help my fiance.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I'm also gonna go and spend some time outside of gaming.
What?
Like I have to do this. Like, you're willingly doing it?
Yeah, I mean I've blasted the last week like crazy. It's like easing my. Come on, guys.
I did look at like my Twitch stats, right? Because I've just been interested to see like what viewership's been like. And it wasn't even the end of the 5th day yet, and I already had 55 hours. And I also have a day job that I worked every single day. And I'm looking at that, I'm like, I've worked more than a full week's worth of hours just in streaming on one platform in the past 5 days. Maybe this isn't healthy. Maybe this isn't good for me.
And then
it's always healthy.
It's always good. It's fine. It's good.
Yeah, then add a lot of or not a lot of sleep in it, and that becomes a little bit not dangerous, but definitely not the healthiest thing you can do. So I'm kind of like, especially the days after a race, I kind of go easy a little bit. So
no.
But this was a great talk, boys.
This was
thanks
awesome.
for rethinking me.
Yeah, no, just like I said before, I just want to have like a friendly conversation, talk with some of the guys that just love the class itself, and see where the conversation goes. It's kind of like I do the Tavern Talk podcast with Darth. We just don't really have any topic. It's like
that one is awesome though. I really like
listening. Let's just talk about Necro to see where we go.
See what happens. Talk about beating your meat and playing Fortnite. That's Necromancer's 100%.
Oh god.
Well, I didn't say beating meat.
You didn't.
No, you but I didn't even mean that. I mean like actually punching me. But I mean everybody seems to have like got a different translations of that statement. Because I was about to say I like to play things like MOBAs, like Dota.
Okay, I got it. Yeah,
yeah, but
whipping
you know,
yourself.
English being my second language, I didn't get to that point. But yeah,
All right, boys.
actually, I played Tibia off stream as my little hobby nowadays.
Oh, no joke.
No joke. On an old server PV. You want to join us? We got some Canadian playing with us as well.
I could play some. I have such a horror story of Tibia. It'll be for next time. Tibia almost got my money, and then like a Chinese hacker got into my account, and they refused to restore my account. I was like, bro, you are Tibia. You are a 20,000-year-old MMO. How dare you not give me back my account right now?
Yeah, I know, right? Nah, it's a good game, yo. It came out 97. Half a year before RuneScape, and both RuneScape and Tibia were inspired by Ultima Online.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of Tibia.
Yeah, we're playing. I just, yeah, but you know how that is. So that is literally being kind of painful, especially when you die. So.
Oh yeah, bro, just having a sack full of sacks full of items, and somebody who's higher level than you comes by and picks up your bag, and you're like, come on, man.
Yeah, I mean, the server we're playing on is PvE, and it's an old server, so it's kind of chill, actually. But it's fun.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I might have to hit you up about that. All right, boys.
All right. Thanks for joining, boys, and I'll catch you guys later then.
Bye-bye.
Auf Wiedersehen. Have a good rest of your season.
Bye-bye, you too.
Bye-bye.